Chapter 51. Gilderoy. Lockhart. Regulus muttered the name twice. He had been away from the wizarding world for a long time and was not very familiar with its people. He frowned, stretched out his right hand and rubbed his temple, trying hard to recall this person in his mind. So familiar. Who is it? I'll give you a hint, Sebastian said, leaving the question a little suspenseful. When we were studying at Hogwarts, we met a special guy. Very, very special. Very special. After hearing this reminder, a particular image appeared in Regulus' mind. I see. Regulus clenched his right fist and gently hammered it on the palm of his left hand, suddenly realizing, it's that Ravenclaw kid who loves to show off. When I was in 4th grade, he had just started school. But, as I recall, his grades and abilities were average. Apart from his love of showing off and grandstanding, there was nothing special about him. Sebastian smiled mysteriously. You are wrong about this. He has a very high level of literary literacy. In addition to being very obsessed with fame and fortune, he is a rare talent. Well, it's getting late. Sebastian stood up and said goodbye to Regulus. I'll introduce him to you when the opportunity is right. By the way, let me tell you a secret, his memory magic is very sophisticated. If you encounter a competitor who doesn't play by the rules, I can arrange for Lockhart to take action and implant a small idea in those guys' heads. How about a little idea of not making things difficult for you? Okay, Regulus pushed Sebastian out. Go home quickly, your wife Mia must be waiting anxiously. As for my part, I'll try to handle the problem using Muggle methods. Of course, I'm not a pedantic person. When I meet a disgusting guy, I will definitely ask you for help. After returning home, Sebastian did not wash up and go to bed immediately. He went to the study and picked up the letter Lockhart wrote to him and started reading. Lockhart is a talented person, but he is very vain and ambitious. Sebastian had to check from time to time that there was nothing wrong with Lockhart's behavior. In fact, Sebastian was still very curious about the fact that Lockhart was sorted into Ravenclaw by the Sorting Hat. He always felt that such a guy who was so obsessed with fame and fortune should be sorted into Slytherin. After Lockhart entered school, Sebastian observed him for 3 years. Unlike the hard-working Ravenclaw, he has no pursuit of knowledge. He spends all day thinking about becoming famous. He is either bragging or making trouble or making big news. The students all avoided him, and even the professors of various subjects disliked him a little. If it weren't for the memories of his past life, Sebastian would have thought that this was a useless person. But he clearly remembered that in the original book, Lockhart not only had a powerful memory spell, but was also a very famous writer. In the Harry Potter fan community of my previous life, when people mentioned Lockhart, they would talk about his forgetfulness spell and the fact that he was a liar. People often overlook his identity as a writer. It is undeniable that the stories in Lockhart's book were all stolen from other people. But many people overlook that Lockhart relied on his real abilities to write these thrilling and fascinating stories. Sebastian had been eyeing this guy for a long time, wanting to recruit him for his own use. After Lockhart graduated, he even assigned people to keep an eye on Lockhart's every move. He knew that Lockhart would not be willing to be lonely. When Lockhart traveled to Armenia, Sebastian knew the time had come. He came to Armenia himself. When Lockhart was attacking an old Armenian wizard, he swooped down from the sky and caught him red-handed. It is actually very simple to conquer Lockhart, just give him a beating and then give him a sweet reward. Under Sebastian's coercion and inducement, Lockhart willingly became Sebastian's employee. Now, Lockhart is not only the most famous writer in the wizarding world, but also the head of Swan Media. Early the next morning, Sebastian rushed to Swan Media. He had to meet Lockhart and give him a lesson. This is a critical stage in the development of Swan Media, and Sebastian must pay extra attention to Lockhart. The moment Sebastian saw Lockhart, he felt a slight headache. Although this guy is a talented person, he is really too noisy. If you don't pay attention to him for 2 months, he will make a big news. Sebastian, Lockhart came up with a big smile. Are you feeling very honored that the winner of Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile is here to greet you personally? Lockhart kept adjusting his angle to give Sebastian what he considered to be the most charming smile. Sebastian ignored Lockhart's smile and walked straight past him to Lockhart's office. How's the filming of Wandering with Werewolves going? What's the status now? Has it been wrapped? When talking about his work, Lockhart immediately becomes excited. He didn't feel tired at all. He jumped up from his chair just as he sat down and hopped up and down in the office. I personally adapted Wandering with Werewolves into a 36-episode TV series. I am the director and I am also the lead actor. Once the magic show is broadcast on TV, I will definitely become the most popular star in the magic world. Stop. 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 Looking at Lockhart jumping up and down, Sebastian was speechless. He quickly stretched out his hands to make a stop sign. Sit down. Talk properly. It's already wrapped, and now it's the final editing stage. Oh, and I'm going to shoot some promotional posters, can you help me take a look? Lockhart jumped up from his chair again and started posing in front of Sebastian. Look, does this make me look tall and handsome? Does this make me look like a lone hero? Or maybe use my smile as a selling point? It's a pity that human beings do not share the same joys and sorrows. Maybe it was because of preconceived notions, but looking at Lockhart who kept posing, Sebastian didn't think he was handsome at all, he just thought he was a bit eye-catching. He waved his hand, forced a smile on his face, stopped Lockhart again, and praised him against his will. They're all very handsome. Just pick one. Or, make a few more posters. Remember to make posters of other actors as well. Don't just be beautiful on your own. You have good taste. Lockhart said happily, the audience will definitely be impressed by my powerful performance. Suddenly, Lockhart's smile faded, and he looked at Sebastian with resentment, bringing up the old matter again. It's a pity that these characters' names are not mine, they are just made up. If you hadn't stopped me, I would have changed the memory of that old Armenian wizard and put the story under my name. There's no need to give that old wizard a large sum of gold galleons. Unlike now, I am just a writer in everyone's eyes, not a powerful wizard. Lockhart clasped his hands together and pleaded pitifully. Help me, Sebastian. I want people to think I'm a powerful wizard. I want to be more famous. Chapter 52. Sebastian glanced at Lockhart helplessly. How many dishes? So drunk? A powerful wizard. Don't you have any AC knowledge in mind? Don't bring that up again, Sebastian rolled his eyes. I'm so tired of hearing that. I've already told you that anything that can be solved with galleons is not a problem. This cooperation model is pretty good. We provide the gold galleons, and others provide the stories. You just need to process those stories with artistic means. This way, you're happy, I'm happy, and everyone is happy. At least, your fame is earned honestly. You have both fame and fortune now, what else can you not be satisfied with? Not enough. Lockhart yelled, rushing to Sebastian's side. He clenched his fists and looked at Sebastian intently. It's not enough, I want to be more famous. To date, I don't have an Order of Merlin. I want to go down in history. I want the history of magic to open a separate page for me, here we go again. Here we go again. Seeing Lockhart excited, Sebastian tried to comfort him. You can't fake your strength. Please examine your true situation. Stealing other people's memories will eventually be exposed. Mr. Lockhart, you don't want to be discovered as a thief and be ruined. Lockhart felt cold all over when he heard the horrific scene Sebastian described. He slumped in his chair and murmured, You promised me. As long as I follow your orders, you will make me famous. And he is famous in both the wizarding and muggle worlds. Actually, there is a solution, Sebastian crossed his legs, it's just that we can become more famous. If you want to become famous in the muggle world, you have to wait patiently for a while. In the magic world, it can still be manipulated. Sebastian leaned back in his chair, giving Lockhart some gentle guidance. Think about it first, what are you best at? Smiling? Acting? Writing? Lockhart listed a few of his own strengths with some confusion. Yes, writing. Sebastian slammed the table, startling Lockhart. I remember that you wrote very good papers during school. Although there's a lot of bullshit going on, that's only going to happen when you're a senior. That's nonsense only because your knowledge can't keep up with your writing style. When you were in your junior year, the professors really liked your papers. Haha, Lockhart muttered softly, what nonsense. This is pure slander. Sebastian glared at Lockhart fiercely, causing Lockhart to shrink his neck in fear. After I became a professor, I discovered that Hogwarts had a serious problem. Sebastian looked sad. He sighed and said helplessly. The first year wizards can't write papers, and the professors are having a headache. Of course, these little guys haven't received any similar training before entering school. It's really hard for them to write papers right after they enter school. Therefore, Sebastian's face turned serious. I plan to open another writing course at Hogwarts, specifically for first-year wizards, for a period of 2 months. Sebastian looked at Lockhart meaningfully. As for the selection of this professor. Me. Lockhart swept away the dejected look just now, pointed at himself and frantically recommended himself. There is no one more suitable than me. Lockhart was very satisfied. Professor of Hogwarts. I don't even dare to think so in my dreams. Guiding a first-grade wizard to write a paper is so easy. The little ones will surely love theirs. Although it's only 2 months a year, it doesn't matter. This is a good job that can improve your reputation every year. Moreover, this course doesn't seem to require any advanced magic skills, so it's perfect for me, right? Don't worry, you are one of my own, I will definitely give you priority. Sebastian emphasized the word priority. Lockhart understood instantly, sat up straight and said he would follow all the arrangements. If you want a bigger burden, you must have a bigger ability. Looking at Lockhart, who was trying to please him, Sebastian said in a deep voice, you have to complete one thing first to prove that you have the ability. I'll go through fire and water, brother. Lockhart patted his chest to show that he had no problems. Swan Media has been established for more than half a year, but it has always been outshined by the Daily Prophet. I want you to lead Swan Media to overtake the competition and throw the Daily Prophet into the trash within 6 months. At the same time, you can't let go of your film and television works. You have to ensure both quality and quantity. How is it? Do you have confidence? Hearing Sebastian's request, Lockhart looked hesitant and a little hesitant. He thought for a moment, and finally gritted his teeth and made up his mind. Done. We can't let this opportunity slip away. If nothing else, Sebastian is very generous to his own people. As long as I can complete the task, I will definitely become more famous. The Daily Prophet. Just wait for me. Thinking of this, Lockhart immediately got into character and told Sebastian about his arrangements. I have decided to postpone the broadcast of Wandering with Werewolves. It's set on the day when the Christmas holidays at Hogwarts begin. It starts at 8 p.m. every night, 2 episodes in a row. As soon as the little wizards get home, they will be attracted by the wonderful plot and then drag their parents to watch it together. By the way, we also have to consider the little wizards who stay in school during the holidays. They are very bored staying in school. Remember to turn on the magic TV in the Hogwarts Great Hall and find them some new entertainment. In this way, we will have many more loyal viewers in just one holiday. I also thought of a catchy slogan, Wandering with Werewolves will be on at 8 p.m. every night. Looking at Lockhart, who was beaming with joy and talking eloquently, Sebastian's heart was filled with emotion. He still admires Lockhart now. Although Lockhart has many shortcomings, he never gives up trying. Of course, the direction of his efforts is a bit crooked. If it weren't for Sebastian, Lockhart would still be a liar. He never gave up his pursuit of success. If one road is blocked, try another one. If an opportunity arises, grab it. It can be said that he is indomitable and will not give up until he succeeds. In this respect, he surpasses many people. Sebastian has also met many young wizards. Although he is young, he becomes lazy when encountering setbacks. He does not strive for progress all day long and blames everything. Comparing the two, Sebastian actually appreciates people like Lockhart more. After all, in life, you can always find something that suits you and realize your own value. Everyone has unique talents and potential. Perhaps these qualities are not obvious at the beginning, but as long as you persist in exploring and trying, you will always find the direction that suits you best. In this process, it is inevitable to encounter setbacks and failures, but it is these challenges that help people grow and mature. Therefore, no matter where you are or when, don't be discouraged or slack off. Every effort and persistence is the cornerstone to success. Believe in yourself and stay positive. Believe in yourself and face the ups and downs in life bravely. Believe in yourself, find the position where you can fully demonstrate your value, and realize the true meaning of life. P.S. Please comment, like, urge for updates, everything, thank you so much. Chapter 53. Lockhart is indeed a talented person. Driven by fame and fortune, he exudes unparalleled passion for work. In order to compete with the Daily Prophet, he not only opened morning news but also evening news. In just a dozen days, they imitated the TV channels in the Muggle world and launched a number of exciting magic TV programs. Lockhart's efficiency was so high that Sebastian was surprised. He even suspected that Lockhart used a time turner. At the same time, in order to actively cooperate with the Ministry of Magic and get on board with it, Lockhart set up a separate channel for the Ministry of Magic to publicize its work. Faced with this achievement that came right to his doorstep, Minister of Magic Fudge was so delighted that he personally stepped out to publicize it. In this way, driven by a variety of interesting programs, Swan Media became completely popular. With the broadcast of Wandering with Werewolves, this enthusiasm has become unstoppable. The Christmas holiday was just halfway over, and Swan Media's popularity completely overshadowed the Daily Prophet. If Magic TVs were only a necessity for Quidditch fans before, then Magic TVs are now essential alchemical items for every wizarding family. Even Mr. Weasley, who was not very wealthy, gritted his teeth and bought a Magic TV at home at the request of his children. Originally, Mrs. Weasley was opposed to buying a magical television. However, after the Magic TV arrived at her home, she changed her previous attitude and became a loyal user of Magic TV. Every night at 8 o'clock, she would appear in front of the Magic TV on time, waiting for the show Wandering with Werewolves to start. When the Christmas holidays were over and Hogwarts returned to school, most of the young wizards were excitedly discussing the plot of the TV series. The young wizards who lived in Muggle families listened to their classmates' discussion with a confused look on their faces, and then pieced together the general plot of Wandering with Werewolves from everyone's chat. They couldn't understand why the topic of conversation had changed so much in just one vacation. No one was talking about Quidditch anymore, everyone was talking about the TV series instead. The days passed by like flowing water, peacefully without a ripple. Sebastian even felt that he would spend the new semester in this quiet and peaceful atmosphere. 1991, March 31st, Easter. After a busy day, Sebastian lay down on the soft and comfortable bed as if his muscles and bones were pulled out, ready to fall into a sweet dream. Suddenly, he felt his traceless stretch bag begin to vibrate violently. Have an emergency contact? Sebastian jumped out of bed, took the traceless stretching bag, and took out a vibrating exquisite box from it. After opening the lid, there was a two-sided mirror in the box, and an anxious voice came from the mirror. Professor Swan, this is George. Something happened, please come here quickly. George Weasley? Where are you? Sebastian was extremely surprised. This two-way mirror should be in Snape's hands. How did George get it? I'm in your office, Professor. Fred's been taken. Sebastian didn't dare to delay. He put on his clothes at an astonishing speed, put away the seamless stretch bag and walked towards the fireplace. There was a flash of green fire, and Sebastian appeared in his office at Hogwarts. Professor, you're finally here. George immediately came forward when he saw Sebastian walking out of the fireplace. Don't panic, speak slowly. Sebastian whispered to George. After discovering that the two-way mirror that was supposed to be in Snape's hand was in George's hand, he was not actually too panicked. After all, with Snape around, things would never be too bad. At least Snape would definitely not watch Fred's life in danger. Now that Snape had caught up, the most urgent thing now was to find out what had happened. At the very least, before setting out to look for a few people on your own, you need to get as much useful information as possible. Seeing George sweating anxiously, Sebastian took out a small bottle of demulcent and asked George to take it to relieve his anxiety. After drinking a bottle of potion, George's tense nerves finally relaxed. He calmed himself down and began to explain the whole story to Sebastian. Professor, when Fred and I were out for a night out tonight, we noticed that Professor Robert from the Defense Against the Dark Arts class was acting a bit sneaky. It felt like we were traveling at night, afraid of being discovered. Fred and I were curious, so we secretly followed him and found that Professor Robert had left the castle and was heading towards the Forbidden Forest. Fred wanted to follow and see, but I was worried about being discovered by Professor Snape on night patrol, so I stood guard at the castle gate with the Marauder's map. As a result, Fred was knocked down by a spell just as he approached the edge of the Forbidden Forest, and was dragged into the Forbidden Forest. Thinking back to the scene, George, who had just calmed down, became a little nervous again. I quickly found Professor Snape who was on night patrol. After listening to my description, he gave me the key to your office and this mirror that can contact you. He asked me to contact you in your office and wait for you. You know the rest. After listening to George's description, Sebastian felt helpless. These two silly guys. You're only in your second year and you're already thinking about following the professor? Should this be praised for being courageous? Or should I say reckless? Fortunately, the two of them were careful and did not follow them all. Otherwise, who knows what will happen? Sebastian released his magical perception and found that the castle was still quiet, which made him feel a little relieved. It seems that things haven't gotten too bad yet. Otherwise, Snape would have surely managed to send word to the professors in the castle. Thinking of this, Sebastian took out his wand and transformed the sofa in the office into a warm and comfortable big bed. He took out a blanket from the traceless stretch bag and said to George, "Don't worry, Professor Snape will definitely bring Fred back safely. You can sleep here tonight, so you can know the news immediately. If you really can't sleep, there's a magic TV in my office that you can use to kill time. Don't worry, there will be good news soon." After saying that, Sebastian got on his broom, opened the window, and flew into the sky, heading towards the Forbidden Forest. He increased his speed to the maximum and rushed into the Forbidden Forest. In order to prevent any blind magical animals from disturbing him, Sebastian released his powerful magic power, announcing his arrival to the entire Forbidden Forest like a dragon. He turned his magical perception to maximum and followed the mark left by Snape. The dense bushes in the Forbidden Forest could not pose any obstacle to him, but simply retreated behind him at an astonishing speed before his eyes. The magic power that emanates from the body gradually becomes boiling and violent. Under the tearing of the strong wind, Sebastian's eyes gradually turned cold. "You really know how to pick your time when you're doing this while Dumbledore's not at school. Professor Robert, you are really smart. I hope you don't do anything stupid." Chapter 54. Fred was having a terrible day. In order to avoid being kicked out of the alchemy team by Professor Swan, he and George immersed themselves in study every day and worked themselves to death like dogs. After returning to the dormitory, as soon as he touched the pillow, he fell into a deep sleep as if he was cast under a sleeping spell. It had been a long time since he had gone on a night tour or had any adventures in Hogwarts at night. After finally waiting for the Easter holiday, he and George decided to go crazy and have a thrilling night adventure. As a result, there was an adventure, but Fred couldn't tell whether it was enjoyable or not. "Anyway, my body hurts a lot." Fred was still very scared when he was first dragged into the Forbidden Forest by Professor Robert. In his opinion, even if he was discovered, he would only lose points. Anyway, he and George hadn't been deducted points for a long time, and instead added a lot of points for Gryffindor. More seriously, being scolded by Professor McGonagall is not unacceptable. The worst that could happen was a screaming letter from Mrs. Weasley. But he never expected that he would be knocked down by a spell as soon as he approached the Forbidden Forest. The professor attacks the little wizard. He wanted to scream, but when he was dragged into the Forbidden Forest by Professor Robert, he began to feel scared. Fred was worried that he would really be killed. After all, in the Forbidden Forest, anything could happen. So, when Professor Robert took away his wand and released the curse on him, he stood up and followed Professor Robert obediently. After all, Professor Robert's behavior was very different from his usual teaching style, not to mention that it was terribly dark in the Forbidden Forest. He couldn't see Professor Robert's expression at all, which undoubtedly made the fear in his heart even greater, as if a huge rock was pressing on his heart, making it hard to breathe. He just prayed silently in his heart, hoping that after George saw his situation, he would ask a more powerful professor for help. If only Professor McGonagall could come over. Or Professor Flitwick would be nice too. Fred was grabbed by the neck and staggered in the Forbidden Forest, his clothes being torn by the bushes. There was a long wound on his left arm, which was left by Professor Robert, who was beside him. Every time he walked a certain distance, the wound on his arm would be cut open, and then Professor Robert would use his blood to release a kind of magic to determine the direction of travel. Fred felt a little resentful. Aren't there many dangerous magical animals in the Forbidden Forest? Aren't there centaurs patrolling the Forbidden Forest and strictly prohibiting wizards from approaching? Aren't there werewolves deep in the Forbidden Forest? Why is it so quiet all the way? In the huge Forbidden Forest, there was not even a bird singing except Professor Robert's mumbling. "Little guy, you're unlucky to have bumped into my hand. Don't even think about shouting for help, no one can hear you." Robert took out the pendant hanging around his neck and introduced it proudly. "See? This is a magical item I bought from another country at a high price during Christmas. Within 30 meters, it can block out all sounds and smells. Moreover, it can simulate the breath of a dragon, making magical creatures stay away from it. Isn't it very practical in the Forbidden Forest?" He replaced the pendant on his collar and glanced greedily at the wound on Fred's arm. I've wanted to use this method for a long time, but Dumbledore has been watching the school, so I didn't have the chance to do it. I want to thank you. If you hadn't caught up with me, I wouldn't have made up my mind to use this method. Ha ha ha, Robert's laughter was a little suppressed and a little crazy. It's really Merlin's blessing that the little guy who followed is a Gryffindor. I will succeed today. Finished. No wonder I can't encounter any magical animals. It turns out that I carry this treasure with me. This is definitely a great tool for night tours. As they went deeper and deeper, Fred felt somewhat relieved. Fortunately, we didn't encounter any dangerous magical animals. Otherwise, I would definitely be left behind as bait. No matter how you look at it, this mentally ill Professor Robert doesn't look like he would save himself. After walking for an unknown amount of time, the two finally arrived at the depths of the Forbidden Forest. The trees here are becoming more and more lush, so dense that the sky is almost invisible. After passing through a bush, Fred's eyes suddenly opened up, a wide flat land appeared in front of them. In the middle of this open space stands a tall boulder. Robert's eyes lit up and he walked to the boulder in 2 or 3 steps. Is this the destination? Fred watched Robert circling the boulder suspiciously. After only 2 turns, Robert dragged Fred to the boulder, cut his wound again, and then smeared the blood on it as if offering a sacrifice. Then he pointed his wand at the boulder and muttered something. Sanguine Gryffindororum, ostium hereditatis appariator. Use the blood of Gryffindor students to open the door to the inherited treasure. Slowly, a gate made of yellow light appeared on the boulder. Robert didn't stop casting the spell until the door was completely stabilized. I finally found you. As he said this, he opened his arms and rushed towards the door with a fanatical look on his face. With a bang, Robert was flicked aside. How is that possible? He was incredulous. How is it possible that I can't get in? Robert rushed towards the light gate again and again, and was bounced back again and again. I don't believe it. I know, there must not be enough blood. He suddenly looked at Fred who was standing beside him and roared with a ferocious look on his face. You! Come here! Fred's heart sank. He felt that Professor Robert in front of him had gone completely crazy. Knowing that you can't get in, you still keep bumping into it tirelessly. Now you have to go forward and let the blood yourself. What if this madman fails next time? If this continues, it will be dangerous. No. We can't just sit there and wait for death. Escape from this madman first. Escaping to the Forbidden Forest might give him a glimmer of hope, but staying here would undoubtedly lead to his own death. Thinking of this, Fred pretended to be scared and walked towards Professor Robert tremblingly. At the same time, his right hand secretly reached into the pocket of his clothes and grasped a dung bomb. Go faster! Ignoring Robert's vicious urging, Fred silently calculated the timing of his attack. 3 steps. 2 steps. Step. Fred stood in front of Robert and raised his left arm tremblingly. While Robert was focusing all his attention on his wound, Fred suddenly stretched out his right hand and smashed the dung bomb hidden in his hand hard on Robert's face. Eat shit! Fred turned and ran, not expecting anything from a dung bomb. He just hoped that this dung bomb could buy him 10 seconds. No. Just 5 seconds. As long as we can get out of this open area and into the trees. He can use the terrain to deal with Professor Robert. There was nothing wrong with Fred's tactics, but he ignored the height difference between the two. He had just taken 2 steps when Robert grabbed his clothes from behind. Before he could struggle, he was thrown heavily to the ground. Fred's eyes suddenly turned red and he didn't have the strength to resist at all. Vomit! Robert retched as he reached out his left hand to grab Fred by the collar and pulled him up from the ground. He held the wand in his right hand and pressed the tip of it firmly against Fred's face. You damned boy! How could you be so dishonest? Wouldn't it be better to just donate blood honestly? Since you don't value your life, this place is yours. That's enough. With a low shout, a spell with a red glow flew out from the bushes next to it and hit the open space next to Robert as if as a warning. Snape's figure slowly floated out from the bushes like a ghost. He held the wand in his hand, expressionless, with the tip of the wand pointed directly at Robert, and said firmly in his icy, emotionless voice, "Tonight's farce ends here. P.S. Please comment, like, urge for updates, everything, thank you so much." Chapter 55. Professor Snape. Fred shouted excitedly. He never thought that it would be Snape who came to rescue him. As a Gryffindor, he had plenty of reasons to hate Snape. He hated Snape's black robes and his emotionless voice. But at this moment, Fred thought Snape was so handsome. He looks so handsome in that black robe. His emotionless voice is so handsome. Even the way he points the wand at himself is cool. Although, under Fred's careful observation, Professor Snape looked a little embarrassed. His breathing was a little rapid, as if he had just run very hard. His black robe was torn and fluttered behind him in wisps. His pants were a little torn, and the skin on his calves could be vaguely seen. Looking more closely, there are some spider web-like things on his body. Despite this, Fred still felt that Snape was glowing with golden light at this moment. Compared to the excited Fred, Snape had a blank expression on his face, appearing calm and reliable. After receiving the news from George, he immediately set out to look for the two people in the Forbidden Forest. Without any effort, as soon as he entered the Forbidden Forest, he found traces of the two people's footsteps. He thought it was just a small, easy task and he would be able to rescue Fred quickly. Unexpectedly, he experienced so many twists and turns along the way. Griffins, unicorns, swarms of acromandra, centaurs, and he even met a werewolf. Although these magical creatures were nothing to Snape, they still caused him some trouble. His pace was slowed down. Snape felt a little annoyed. From what he had observed, there were no signs of fighting along the way. This means that the two people in front did not encounter any trouble at all. After overcoming all obstacles along the way, I was already exhausted and out of breath when I found the two people. When Fred saw the two figures from a distance, he was already in danger. He was too cautious and acted in a hurry, which caused the spell to miss the target and fail to achieve the desired effect. This made Snape feel even worse. What Snape didn't realize was that this was all Robert's fault. With the help of the alchemical pendant, all the magical animals along the way were scared away, and only after he and Fred passed by did these magical animals slowly return to their previous territories. The magical creatures, whose sleep was disturbed, were so angry that they had no way to vent their anger, so when Snape passed by, they just picked trouble with him. All I can say is that he had bad luck and suffered an unexpected disaster. Snape's mouth was pursed into a straight line, and anyone who knew him well would understand that this was a sign that he could not suppress his anger. Seeing Snape walking towards him with an expressionless face, Robert quickly bent his body and tried his best to hide himself behind Fred. He grabbed Fred with one hand and held him in front of him, pointed his wand at Snape with the other hand, and then cast a spell with a ferocious look on his face. Expelliarmus. Fainted. Thunder explosion. Snape continued walking, casually using his wand to deflect the spells, staring at Robert with his empty eyes, and spoke expressionlessly. I said, tonight's farce ends here. Put down your wand, you are no match for me, don't resist in vain. He. Robert laughed weirdly and stared at Snape with an exaggerated expression. Severus Snape, you notorious Death Eater, you are here. It's so hard for me to endure it. Robert's voice became louder and louder, making Fred's ears buzz. I've always wanted to fire a curse at you and torture you severely. Stop. Don't go any further. Robert put his wand against Fred's face. Professor Snape, you don't want this little guy to get hurt in front of you. Oh? You want to torture me? Snape stopped abruptly 2 meters away from Robert like a sculpture, as if time had stopped for him. Let go of this student, I'll give you this chance. Ha. Robert became more and more crazy, laughing until tears came out. Give me a chance. I admit that I underestimated you. I am no match for you. But you may have forgotten one thing. Robert's left hand squeezed Fred's neck hard, causing him to cry out in pain. Put your wand down, or I'll use the Cruciatus curse on him. Faced with Robert's threat, Snape was not moved at all. He spoke calmly. I am the evil Death Eater you mentioned. Do you think I would put down my wand for a student and let you threaten my life? Snape glanced at the boulder behind Robert. You are here for this stone. Can you guess whether this stone can remain intact under my full force attack? How dare you? Robert shouted fiercely, don't you care about the safety of your student? You can bet on whether I dare or not. Hearing Snape's unchanged voice, Robert hesitated. According to records, this boulder is related to Gryffindor, so it shouldn't be easily destroyed. But he didn't dare to gamble. For the stone behind him, he had already spent a lot of energy and money. It could be said that he had exhausted his family fortune. He can't afford to gamble. Robert was afraid of completely angering Snape and causing him to attack the boulder behind him, so he did not dare to attack Fred. Looking at Robert, who was blocking Fred in front of him, Snape was not sure of killing him with one blow, so he did not dare to attack easily. The situation became deadlocked. Looking at the stalemate, Fred decided to save himself. He first winked at Snape to get his attention. Then Fred carefully moved his right hand, slowly reached into his pocket, and grasped the last dung bomb. He exhaled lightly, then suddenly took out the dung bomb, and based on his feeling, threw it behind his head with his backhand. With a snap, the dung bomb shattered, emitting a pungent smell. Right in the middle of the eyebrows. Robert only slightly turned his attention away from Fred to see a spherical object coming towards his eyes. Yellow liquid flowed down from between his eyebrows, blurring his eyes. Robert was a little panicked because he couldn't see clearly. So he got angry and pushed Fred hard towards Snape, and at the same time, he used the wand in his right hand to cast a vicious spell at Fred. Break bones and dig out flesh. Seeing Fred winking at him, Snape immediately understood that this was to create an opportunity for him. When Snape saw the dung bomb hit Robert's forehead, his eyes lit up and he raised his wand to give him a hard blow. However, he clearly saw Fred being pushed towards him, and the wand flashing with eerie dark magic behind him. If he continued to attack Robert, he would surely succeed, but Fred would definitely be hit. In a split second, Snape didn't have time to think too much. He just instinctively released the spell in his hand and pushed Fred aside. The pain in his chest made his mind go blank, and then he fell heavily to the ground. Professor Snape. Seeing Snape being knocked to the ground by the curse and losing his voice, Fred, who was lying on the ground, felt a sense of fear. Is this curse directed at me? Thinking that it was Snape who pushed him away just now, Fred was deeply moved. He crawled on his knees and stumbled to Snape's side. After he lifted Snape up from the ground and leaned him against himself, he realized that his hands were covered in Snape's blood. Professor, you're bleeding so much. Fred cried. Ha 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 ha. I still win. Robert pointed his wand at Snape, laughing maniacally as he wiped the filth from his eyes. Snape, you've become soft-hearted. I am the ultimate winner. I told you I would torture you severely. Crucio. Professor Snape. At the critical moment, a magic spell flew over from a distance. As Fred screamed, a thick ice wall appeared out of nowhere, blocking Fred and Snape. Robert's spell only caused a few icy spots to form when it hit it. I'm sorry, but your idea of torturing Snape won't work. Sebastian's angry voice came from afar. Because, your next opponent is me. Professor Robert. Chapter 56. Before he finished speaking, Sebastian, riding a broom, stopped in front of Fred. In the blink of an eye, the fear on Fred's face receded like the tide, and was replaced by surprise and excitement. Very good. Professor Swan is here. Fred's surprise lasted only a moment before he fell into new worries. The other party is the Professor of Defense against the Dark Arts. I don't know if Professor Swan can win. If only it was Professor McGonagall or Professor Flitwick who came. I'm sorry I'm late. Sebastian came up to Fred and spoke softly. Don't worry. Leave the rest to me. Professor, be careful. Professor Robert is a dark wizard. He just used dark magic. Dark wizard? My first job was an auror. I haven't caught any dark wizards in so many years, I've been thirsting for them. Sebastian pulled out a few potions and placed them in Fred's hands. Fred, Professor Snape's safety is in your hands. First, give Snape the bone-growing spirit and blood-replenishing potion, then pour the distilled essence on his chest to stop the bleeding. Next, the Professor will vent your anger. The Professor was also an auror? Fred was completely relieved and quickly picked up the blood-replenishing potion and put it to Snape's mouth. Professor Snape, get up and take your medicine. Sebastian stood up, waved his hand to remove the ice wall, and gave Robert a slightly hideous smile. Professor Robert, my good friends and students are seriously injured. I'm very angry. So, next time, please do your best. Otherwise, I'm worried that I might accidentally beat you to death. Ha 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 ha, Robert laughed until he was out of breath after hearing Sebastian's arrogant words. Who do you think you are? Dumbledore. He looked at Sebastian with a joking expression, just because you are a mere Muggle studies professor. I just wanted you to catch up with your students out of kindness. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? Come on, I'll let you beat me to death. Break bones and dig out flesh. A spell struck, and the buttons on Sebastian's sleeves shattered and fell to the ground. A protective alchemical item. Looking at Sebastian standing there motionless, Robert's expression changed. I want to see how many protective gear you have. Break the bones and dig out the flesh. Break the bones and dig out the flesh. Break the bones and dig out the flesh. A series of spells were cast at Sebastian, but they were like a drop in the ocean and had no effect at all. Sebastian dusted off his sleeves and gave Robert a disdainful smile. Professor Robert. Even though I gave you a chance, you are useless. The power of your spell is too weak, just like the water flowing out of a pipe. It can't even penetrate two protective buttons at the same time. Robert was completely infuriated by Sebastian. Good. Don't you have protective equipment? I'll just attack the two on the ground and see what they do. Thunder explosion. Robert's pupil shrank, and he was surprised to find that when he just raised his wand, Sebastian took the lead to block the path of his spell, then stretched out his wand and easily pushed his spell aside. This again? Snape was able to easily block his own spell just now, how could this Muggle Studies professor be able to do the same? Robert never imagined that things would turn out like this. Looking at the black-haired figure who seemed to be tired of playing and was walking towards him. Watch him casually block one spell after another. Robert's mind went blank. His expression kept changing, sometimes he looked unwilling, sometimes he gritted his teeth. He didn't know what to do. Are you saying that my attack is weak? But his arms were smoking from swinging so hard. All kinds of vicious black magic were shot at Sebastian without hesitation. But the other party just blocked it with his wand without even pausing. This shouldn't be the case. He's just a businessman, a small professor of Muggle studies. If you are so strong, why do you want to teach Muggle studies instead of defense against the dark arts? Robert's cold sweat dripped down his forehead, and he began to consider his escape route. Escape. This thought flashed through his mind like lightning and instantly occupied his entire mind. Apparition. Robert was dumbfounded. He stood there motionless, as if he had not moved at all. How could that be? I'm sorry, to prevent you from escaping, I used the anti-apparition charm while I was using the freezing charm to protect Snape and the others. Robert reacted very quickly. He quickly cast a smoke spell on the spot, then ran towards the bushes at the edge of the clearing without looking back. There's no point in running away, so let's just stay. God of Fire. Make way. After running 2 steps, Robert felt an astonishing heat coming from behind him. Then, a giant dragon made of blazing fire, in a violent manner, instantly tore through the thick smoke created by the smokescreen spell and trapped him. This road is blocked. Robert's right leg could no longer move forward. In front of him and on both sides was a huge curtain of flames. Just a little closer, Robert could feel his hair being bent by the heat. He turned around and looked at Sebastian, who was only 1 step away from him, in fear. Before he could open his mouth to say anything, the grass under his feet transformed into ropes as thick as thumbs and tied him up. It's a transfiguration spell. Why is there no sound at all? Professor Robert, Sebastian's voice sounded emotionless, from what I understand, you have always been an ally of Dumbledore. During the last Wizarding War, although you did not join Dumbledore's Order of the Phoenix, you always stood firmly against the Dark Lord. Logically, you should be an upright person. Otherwise, Dumbledore would not have invited you to become a professor at Hogwarts. Can you tell me why? Robert's eyes were as red as burning fire. He struggled with all his strength, like a trapped beast. When he realized there was no hope of escape, he began to curse without thinking, and his uncontrollable rage seemed to swallow up the whole world. Dumbledore is a hypocritical villain. I believed him and ended up with my family destroyed. He said no hexes, no killing curses, and I listened. And the result? Death Eaters were freed over and over again by their own agents in the Ministry. Dumbledore is clearly capable of killing all those Death Eaters. If he kills them all, my family won't be tortured to death. Obviously. We have already won. The Dark Lord was killed by the Savior. Robert choked a little, and his roar became hoarse. It's been 10 years. Do you know how I've been living these years? Every time I see the families lying in their beds at St. Mungo's, my heart aches. I hated myself for not being ruthless enough before, so I started to study all kinds of dark magic desperately. I want to kill all the surviving Death Eaters. Robert became frantic, his eyes fixed on Sebastian. Just 1 step away. I have found the Gryffindor heritage. I will immediately gain unparalleled power. Please let me go, Sebastian. We are on the same side. I did all this to kill the bad guys. Sebastian's eyes darkened slightly, and he was completely unmoved by Robert's roar. I don't believe you, Professor Robert. I saw the wound on Fred's arm. I told you I'd give them a vent. I wanted to beat you up with my fists, because using spells just wasn't enough to satisfy me. But your face is so dirty, I'm afraid of contaminating my hands. Sebastian took out a batter's bat from the seamless stretch bag and smiled at Robert in his horrified eyes, like a poisonous snake showing its sharp fangs. Professor Robert, please hold on. Don't die. Ask for everything, thank you very much. Chapter 57. After a brutal beating, Sebastian finally got his revenge. Wow, you speak better than you sing. He said he wanted to kill all the Death Eaters and all the evil people. There are so many Death Eaters imprisoned in Azkaban, why don't they rush in and take revenge? Whenever someone rushed in and had S*X with Bella or something like that, Sebastian would give them a thumbs up and praise them as a hero. If the prison break is too difficult, then Lucius and other Death Eaters from pure-blood families are all active in the wizarding world. Why not cause trouble for them? After so many years, Sebastian has never heard of any Death Eater from a pure-blood family being killed. Even if we take a step back, even if we want to accumulate strength, we cannot attack students. What is this called? This is a typical case of bullying the weak and fearing the strong. All in all, he is nothing more than a coward and a pathetic being driven by hatred. Sebastian walked over to Fred and threw the bat at his feet. Would you like to give him a couple of beatings to vent your anger? Fred looked at Professor Robert, whose head had turned into a pig's, and shook his head rapidly. The force he exerted seemed to be trying to shake the brain evenly. Professor Swan is so violent and scary. But I like it. Unexpectedly, Professor Swan was so strong. Beating Professor Robert was like beating a child. Fred looked at Sebastian excitedly, waiting for him to make the next plan. Sebastian looked at Snape, who was sitting on the ground resting. Severus, how are you, can you move? When Sebastian arrived, Snape relaxed completely. However, at that time, his chest was seriously injured and he couldn't utter a word. After drinking the potion provided by Sebastian, there was no serious problem with his body. As for the chest, haha, it's just a minor injury. It's okay. It's not some powerful dark magic. It's not a problem anymore. Snape struggled to his feet and made a joke to Sebastian. I remember you told me that if I set fire to a mountain, I would be sentenced to life imprisonment. He pointed at the fire burning around him and forced a smile. Why aren't you afraid of spending the rest of your life in jail today? Hearing the conversation between the two, Fred's eyes suddenly widened as big as copper bells. Is this Professor Snape? Oh my god! Professor Snape has learned to take a joke. As Sebastian waved his wand to put out the flames, he complained to Snape, I gave you so many protective gear, why don't you wear them? Dealing with such a small character was a disaster. Hearing Sebastian's complaints, Fred suddenly became anxious. In his heart, Professor Snape, who risked his life to save him, looked so handsome tonight. If Professor Robert wasn't so insidious, Professor Snape wouldn't have been able to get hurt at all. What Professor Swan said is extremely biased. He quickly spoke up to defend Snape, that's not the case. It's all my fault for dragging down Professor Snape. Besides, Professor Robert was extremely despicable and used me as a human shield. Otherwise, Professor Snape would have won easily. Seeing the surprised looks from the two, Fred's voice became smaller and smaller, I'm right, that's it. Sebastian was a little surprised. He didn't expect that Fred, who was a staunch anti-Slytherin in the original book, would actually speak well of Snape. He smiled and ruffled Fred's hair, then raised an eyebrow at Snape. Let's go and see tonight's spoils. The three of them came to a gate made of yellow light on the boulder and began to explore the mystery within. When he got closer, Fred discovered that there was a line of tiny words the size of a fly's head next to the gate. However, under the yellow light, it seemed a little inconspicuous. Only with the courage and determination to carry the whole world on your shoulders can you step into this door to the unknown. Looking at the two professors who were studying the light gate, Fred hesitated for a moment, but still expressed his doubts. Professor, if you want to open this door, you may need my blood. That's what Professor Robert did just now. How is that possible? Sebastian flatly denied Fred's statement, if this door is related to Gryffindor, it would not require such evil magic as blood sacrifice. He is one of the founders of Hogwarts, a truly great man with a broad mind. Robert must have used some evil magic to activate this door. Normally, this would not be the process. He glanced at Fred, who looked full of longing, and encouraged him, "How about it, do you want to give it a try?" Fred was shaking with excitement. It would be a lie to say he wasn't excited. Professor Robert had just said that this door was related to Gryffindor and could gain great power. This is most likely the treasure left by Gryffindor. He turned his head and looked at the two professors, feeling vaguely proud. In fact, he had no intention of competing with the professors, especially since his life was saved by the professors. However, there should be no one more qualified than himself for the Gryffindor treasure. After all, there were 3 people present, 2 of them were Slytherins, and he was the only one from Gryffindor. Hey! This is a sure thing. I made a lot of money, today's night tour was totally worth it. He looked up at Sebastian, and with his encouraging look in his eyes, he walked towards the light door. Ouch! Fred bumped his head against it and was thrown back into a squatting position on the ground. He rubbed his head and sighed in his heart, "Oh, it seems that I have no chance to find the treasure." Seeing Fred being rejected by the light gate, Sebastian began to think. Isn't it that simple? That's right, if it were that simple, this treasure would have been obtained by someone long ago. After all, 1,000 years had passed, and some lucky Gryffindor student must have come across the stone in that time. What's more, when Hogwarts was first established, there was still a faint shadow of the master-apprentice system in the school. At that time, Gryffindor students could be considered apprentices of Gryffindor himself. If there is no test, wouldn't it be better to just pass it on to the students? He looked again at the small words next to the light gate. The courage to carry the world on your shoulders? Sebastian thought for a moment and turned his head towards the 2 of them. It should be about courage. You can think of the most courageous thing you have ever done and then try it again. After hearing Professor Swan's explanation, Fred immediately got up. He recalled everything he had done in his life in his mind, then carefully stretched out his hands and pushed towards the light gate. With a snap, Fred's hands were flicked aside again. He was a little depressed, he felt that he was brave enough. You have already faced death, doesn't that count as courage? Stingy Gryffindor. Compared to student Fred, Snape was much calmer. He felt that compared to carrying the world, his courage was very small, so small that he could only keep Lily in his heart. However, if it is for Lily, his courage can become infinite. He thought about it and finally felt that his courage did not match the prompts. So, in response to Sebastian's invitation, he simply shook his head. I'm not interested in Gryffindor's treasure. Seeing that the 2 no longer tried, Sebastian straightened his clothes, walked to the light door, and gently reached out his hand. In just a blink of an eye, Fred found that Professor Swan had disappeared, and he was devastated. Gryffindor is blind. It would be fine if you didn't choose yourself. How come I chose a Slytherin to enter my treasure? But having said that, if that's the case, does Professor Swan also count as a Gryffindor? It looks good this way. Hey! At this time, Sebastian had already arrived at the gate of Hogwarts. In front of the gate of a pure white Hogwarts castle. This feeling. Why does it look so much like the hazy fantasy in the movies? As he looked around, the castle gate opened and a tall man with red hair and a beard walked out. Looking at the familiar-looking man, Sebastian blurted out. Godric. Gryffindor. You are still alive. Chapter 58. Gryffindor is still alive. Sebastian was shocked. It's been 1,000 years. How did they do that? If Voldemort knew that the secret of eternal life was in the Forbidden Forest, he would definitely beat his chest and cry out to the sky. This is his ultimate dream. I'm a Gryffindor, but Gryffindor is not me. Facing Sebastian's question, the red muscular man answered with full energy. I'm just a memory left here by Gryffindor, don't think too much about it. It's just like the sorting hat, except it's a special item made by the 4 of us who put our thoughts into it. And I am a memory preserved by Gryffindor himself using the magic of the dark forest. No wonder. Sebastian suddenly realized. No wonder he felt something was wrong. It turns out that this Gryffindor's body is made of pure magic, but the memories are his own. What a magical method. Before Sebastian could say anything, Gryffindor frowned. Why is it a Slytherin boy? This is really strange. The one who found my inheritance wasn't a student from Gryffindor College. Could it be that the current Gryffindor students no longer have the courage to explore the depths of the dark forest? He sighed, then looked at Sebastian gloomily, not looking very happy. Hearing this, Sebastian immediately became unhappy. What happened to the Slytherin students? Eat your rice? Do you look down on Slytherin students so much? Thinking of this, Sebastian asked, how do you know I'm a Slytherin? I'm not wearing Slytherin clothes. Students who have been sorted by the sorting hat have signed a simple contract with the house they were sorted into. I can tell which house you are from at a glance. What? The Gryffindor looked at Sebastian with disdain. Want to pretend to be a Gryffindor student? I'm telling you, no way. Gryffindor's contemptuous look made the veins on Sebastian's forehead throb. How? You Gryffindor smell so good? Should I still humble myself and pretend to be a student of Gryffindor? If it weren't for the fact that you are the founder of Hogwarts. I really want to say directly, I am a Slytherin student, I am proud. I represent Slytherin. But of course we can't use force to deal with this kind of old antique. We, the students from Slytherin, are good at being flexible and adaptable. For the sake of Gryffindor's legacy, I'll just have to bear it. The dark forest you mentioned now has a new name in Hogwarts, the Forbidden Forest. Students have long been prohibited from exploring here. It's not easy to wait for a Gryffindor student. Besides, Sebastian straightened his back, students from Slytherin are also very courageous. Besides, aren't Slytherin students also students of Hogwarts? So, I am your student too. You can't hide anything from me just because I'm a Slytherin. I passed your test. The Gryffindor laughed, agreeing with Sebastian's reaction. If this Slytherin boy showed any servility in order to please him, he would definitely tell Sebastian to get as far away from him as possible. Knowing his own identity, this boy was able to remain neither humble nor arrogant, and speak some well-reasoned words. Gryffindor actually admired this courage. Well, I thought too much. Don't tell me you're a Slytherin student. As long as you have the courage to carry the world on your shoulders, it doesn't matter if you are not a Hogwarts student. I'm a Gryffindor. As he said that, Gryffindor's face straightened and became serious. His steady magic power gradually began to boil, and he looked at Sebastian with burning eyes like a lion entering hunting mode. Do you want my inheritance? Then attack me with all your strength, boy. Let me weigh you and see if you are qualified. Let's teach happily while fighting. As soon as he finished speaking, a long sword made of magic appeared in Gryffindor's right hand, and at the same time, he held a wand in his left hand. He bent his body slightly, pointed his sword at Sebastian, and made an attacking gesture. Let me show you the methods of the strongest melee wizard. In an instant, Sebastian felt as if all the magic power around him was suddenly imprisoned. However, the waves of magic surging from Gryffindor made him feel like he was in the ocean, facing real huge waves. Is this the style of the most powerful wizard 1,000 years ago? Good thing you came. Sebastian's eyes lit up, and the wand appeared in his hand instantly. He looked at Gryffindor with full fighting spirit. Melee wizard? As it happens, when I traveled to the east, I also learned a few martial arts moves. The two looked at each other, and Sebastian raised his hand and shot 3 spells at Gryffindor. The 3 spells were arranged in a triangular shape, blocking any possibility for Gryffindor to dodge. To Sebastian's surprise, Gryffindor didn't dodge or evade the incoming spell, but rushed straight forward. He swung his sword to cut off 1 spell, and then let the remaining 2 spells fall on him. The light of the iron armor spell flashed, and the 2 spells were directly bounced away. Wrong. This armor spell is not right. It appeared in an instant, with no sign that Gryffindor had cast a spell. And Sebastian was absolutely certain that this was definitely not wandless casting. In addition, not only was the way it appeared wrong, but even the feeling of deflecting the spell was wrong. Sebastian vaguely felt that this armor spell seemed extremely thick. The spell felt like Sebastian hitting armor with a stick. Is this the Gryffindor's unique skill? After just a moment of distraction, Gryffindor appeared beside Sebastian like a ghost, and then swung his sword down, as fast as lightning across the night sky. Don't be stunned, kid. I now have the magic power of the entire Forbidden Forest concentrated in me. Don't underestimate me just because I'm not a Gryffindor. Sebastian slightly turned sideways to avoid the opponent's sword, then dodged and put some distance between himself and Gryffindor. After that, he continued to fly a kite towards Gryffindor. If you fight a long-range battle against a close-range one and don't kite, then you'll be punished. After several rounds of fighting, Sebastian gradually figured out some clues. It seemed that Gryffindor's shield charm had more than 1 layer. Rather, this effect is produced by stacking many iron armor spells on top of each other layer by layer. Thinking of this, Sebastian had an idea in mind, and he decided to test his most powerful spell. God's sword has no shadow. As if he had seen what Sebastian was planning, the Gryffindor simply stood still and allowed the spell to be fired at him. In an instant, this sharpest spell cut through the outermost layer of the armor spell, but it was weak in the follow-up and was still a long way from completely breaking through the opponent's defense. Is this the foundation of the strongest melee wizard? Suddenly, Sebastian realized something. No wonder Gryffindor in history liked to use swords to destroy enemies. With such a turtle shell, it can completely defend against most attacks from spells. Plus the extremely sharp Gryffindor sword made by goblins. When everyone is using spells to shoot at each other from a distance, Gryffindor, contrary to his usual behavior, charged forward and attacked closely despite the curse. In that era, information was not well circulated, and most wizards were caught off guard, so it was not easy to hit them with one strike. Seeing Sebastian use his strongest means, Gryffindor laughed. Do you understand? This is the inheritance left here, my unique skill, the iron armor spell. Feel well, think well. Break through yourself in battle and learn this technique. Slytherin boy, I will love you well. Ask for everything, grateful. Chapter 59. How long have you been holding back on this? Why do you get so excited when a fight starts? Looking at the aggressive Gryffindor, Sebastian stretched out his hands and gestured to stop. Stop! The sudden stop made the Gryffindor, who was in the middle of a fierce battle, extremely uncomfortable. His eyes were wide open, his hair and beard were standing up, and he roared at Sebastian like an enraged lion. What's wrong, kid? Don't you even have the courage to fight me? You're really disappointing me. Sebastian quickly waved his hand and said, I just think that your teaching method is too inefficient. I want to change the learning method. Hearing Sebastian's dislike for his teaching methods, the Gryffindor immediately became furious and started jumping up and down. Really? Gryffindor's voice was unremarkable. Then please teach me, Master, how should I teach? Sebastian could hear the sarcasm in the other person's words, but family members know their own business. As long as it is a spell, he has his own unique learning method, 100% imitation. With his unique talent for magical perception, as long as someone casts a spell in front of him, he can quickly imitate it. He smiled slightly and boasted to the angry Gryffindor. Just show me the process of casting the spell, and I'll learn it just by watching. You learned it just by watching it once? FKU. Slytherin kids are so cunning. This is definitely because he is afraid of being beaten. Seeing Gryffindor's face with a blow look on his face, Sebastian said quickly. I promise, I can learn your spell stacking technique just by watching it once. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Gryffindor waved his hands again and again. You can learn it in 3 days, which is considered a natural talent. To be able to learn it in 2 days was top-notch in our time. If I could learn it in 1 day. How about learning it in 1 day? Sebastian asked curiously. I'll just give you a thumbs up and say great. The Gryffindor rolled his eyes. I've taught this to many students. Only a few students can learn it in 3 days, and many more students will never master this skill in their entire lives. As for what you said, you can learn it just by watching it once? Haha. Seeing Gryffindor looking up at the sky with an unyielding look, Sebastian took a step forward and used his tried and true method of provoking him. What? Gryffindor teacher, you don't even dare to try. No way. No way. Sebastian instantly turned into a green tea. The founder of Hogwarts doesn't even have the courage to try. As soon as these words came out, Gryffindor's face immediately turned gloomy. His magic power began to boil again, pressing down on Sebastian in waves. How dare you question your own courage? Let me be frank with you. If you don't learn it after watching it once, I will definitely give you a good beating to vent my anger. You know, during the teaching process just now, I didn't spare any spells from you. I was just using fighting skills to play with you. Watch this, boy. Gryffindor tried his best to suppress his anger. I will show you slowly, you must watch carefully. Although he was angry in his heart, he was meticulous in his actions and explained the key points without reservation. You have to pay attention to the ending of the first iron armor spell. Slow down the magic power at the end, and then use absolute control to directly connect to the second iron armor spell. There are 2 difficulties here. Gryffindor glared at Sebastian. the speed at which magic power slows down and the absolute control of one's own magic power. If you're not careful, it will turn into two separate armor spells. Don't take it lightly, Gryffindor raised his voice again, this is just the first step, the foundation of the foundation. What comes next is the key. The key to repetitive spells is the repetition of words. Watch my technique. Sebastian dared not be careless in the slightest regarding Gryffindor's personal teaching. He stared at Gryffindor's every move intently. At the same time, he turned his magic perception to the maximum to carefully experience every flow of magic. In his perception, Gryffindor controlled every movement delicately, just like a mighty strong man embroidering with an embroidery needle. The iron armor spell is stacked layer upon layer in an orderly manner, like a fine work of art, beautiful and generous. Sebastian had a flash of inspiration. How come this layer by layer technique is so similar to the method of depicting magic circuits in alchemy? No wonder it's so difficult. This spell is alchemy in the guise of a magic spell. If you don't have a basic understanding of alchemy, it would be a pipe dream to learn this spell. However, no wonder the defense of the stacking spell is so strong. This is like chainmail among muggles. Gryffindor uses a single armor spell as a basis to weave a powerful armor that belongs only to wizards. That's amazing. Gryffindor is indeed one of the most famous wizards in wizarding history. It was only now that Sebastian truly realized the weight of the word Gryffindor. Okay, pay attention to the technique of this last step. Gryffindor's shout brought Sebastian back to reality from his thoughts. He looked up and saw the 9th shield charm coming to its final action. With a flick of Gryffindor's wand, the 9th spell was completely completed, and together with the previous 8 shield charms, they were completely connected to form a whole. This is the stacking spell. 9 iron armor spells connected together as one layer. The more layers there are, the stronger the defense. In theory, you can stack it infinitely, and your defense can become infinitely strong. But be careful, with each additional layer, your control will become stronger. If you don't pay attention, all your efforts will be wasted. At this point, Gryffindor paused and looked at Sebastian meaningfully. Don't you think it's extremely troublesome? Apart from being a bit more defensive, it's not as flexible as a single armor spell. Sebastian nodded, agreeing. In actual combat, there is no time to stack spells layer by layer, and one mistake will result in all previous efforts being wasted. Not practical. Not very practical really. Are you sure this isn't some old-fashioned magic? Unless, this kind of overlapping spell can be prepared in advance and exist for a long time. Seeing Sebastian's sudden realization, the Gryffindor laughed happily. Although it is troublesome, once the stacking spell is formed, it will form its own magic circuit, and then absorb the magic power in the air, and continue to exist stably. You can prepare ahead of time and add extra layers. Normally it hides beside you and won't affect your daily life. It will only appear when it is attacked or you actively summon it. How is it? Isn't it amazing? Only then did Sebastian understand the importance of stacking spells, infinitely increasing defense. You can also prepare in advance. This seems to be extremely powerful. This is an invisible protective item that can be continuously strengthened. Gryffindor, right? From today on, this spell will be called Swan. Seeing Sebastian nodding his head like a chicken pecking at rice, the Gryffindor felt very proud. He stroked his beard and said to Sebastian teasingly, "Come on, master. Please start your performance." Chapter 60. Are you trying to make fun of yourself? Very good, Lao Deng. Remember who you are now. Sebastian closed his eyes and went through the entire Gryffindor magic flow in his mind. He waved his wand, and the dancing trajectory was like a dancing elf, graceful and beautiful. Seeing Sebastian successfully cast the second shield charm, the Gryffindor's expression changed. Hey? How is that possible? The second iron armor spell was surprisingly successful at once, and was very stable, without separating from the first one. Hey? Is this kid so talented? The third one has also taken shape, and he looks like he is doing it with ease. The fourth one. The fifth one. The sixth. Gryffindor's expression became more and more uneasy, and he was beginning to doubt his life. Almost successful? Is this guy that strong? Don't worry, the ending of the 9th spell is very critical, this kid will definitely not succeed. If he can succeed in one try, I will perform a handstand for him on the spot. When Sebastian cast the 8th shield charm, he opened his eyes and started acting for Gryffindor. He looked embarrassed and asked Gryffindor for help. Mr. Gryffindor, I can't control myself anymore. I really need your encouragement now. Encourage? The Gryffindor scoffed at the suggestion. Why would I be a battle wizard if encouragement worked? According to this statement, if I directly become a cheerleader and cheer for my students every day, wouldn't I be able to achieve greater success? However, thinking of Sebastian's strange behavior, he still hesitantly raised his thumb, and under Sebastian's eager gaze, he said hesitantly, "Come on." As soon as he finished speaking, Sebastian swung his wand in a beautiful arc. The 9th iron armor spell took shape, firmly connecting with the previous 8 spells to form a whole. Feeling the powerful armor spell cast by the stacking spell technique, Sebastian was a little excited. What a tough feeling! Not only that, after the original iron armor spell was cast, an invisible shield would appear in the direction of the caster's wand, serving as a protective barrier between himself and his opponent. Now, multiple iron armor spells are connected end to end, completely surrounding itself and providing all-round, all-weather protection. Sebastian's thoughts deepened. A single shield charm cannot resist the power of the killing curse, but what about the stacked curses? According to Gryffindor, this only completes one layer of stacking spells. What if I stack a few more layers? What if there are 100, 1,000, or 10,000 layers? Thinking of this, Sebastian's heart became hot. Will there be a day when I can use the armor curse to stack curses, withstand Voldemort's big mouth, knock him to the ground with a stick, and then arrogantly shout who else? Impossible! A loud roar came from the side. Gryffindor's jaw dropped to the ground in surprise. He ruffled his hair and looked extremely devastated. He rushed to Sebastian's side, grabbed his collar with both hands, and roared unwillingly. I don't believe it. Boy, you dare to play me? Can encouragement be so useful? No one can get it right the first time. You must have learned it before. But how is this possible? It's clearly lost, which is why I left this secret realm of inheritance. Sebastian patted the Gryffindor's arm, pulling himself free from his grasp. Mr. Gryffindor, you are too enthusiastic now. I can't handle it. I still prefer the rebellious look you had just now. By the way, Sebastian paused and asked the question in his mind, why do you say that the stacking spell has been lost? Didn't you just say that you taught it to several students? Gryffindor looked very lonely. He looked up at the white Hogwarts castle in the secret realm and sighed deeply. They're all dead. Sebastian almost spit out his saliva. How can they still be alive today? Also, isn't stacking spells very powerful? The Gryffindor walked over to the steps and sat down, patting the floor next to him towards Sebastian. Slytherin boy, this is the last truth I want to tell you. The spellcasting competition between wizards is actually a competition of magic power. Many spells require powerful magic as a foundation. If your own magic power is not strong enough, even if you stack a few more layers of armor spells, you will not be able to fight back against a wizard with high magic power. My students died in this way. They blindly worshipped me and blindly believed in the power of the overlapping spells. That's why they died. A powerful magic base. Hearing this, Sebastian was touched. He remembered that in the original book, Barty Crouch Jr. said something similar when he pretended to be moody. It seemed that even if the little wizards used the melon-eating trick on him, he would just have a nosebleed at most. Now it seems that the principle is the same. Gryffindor looked deeply at Sebastian, who was in deep thought, and gave him instructions solemnly. Stacking spells doesn't make you invincible. Many times, you need to judge for yourself whether your stacked spells can resist the enemy's spells. This requires a very strong magical perception. Kid, don't get too cocky and die. Powerful magical perception? Sebastian was completely relieved, as he knew this was a perfect match for his profession. This spell is completely tailor-made for me. This trip to the Forbidden Forest was amazing. Later, I became discouraged and stopped teaching my spells. It was just that I didn't want to see my unique skills lost in time. So, after Slytherin left the Chamber of Secrets and left the school, I also left my own secret inheritance deep in the forest. Does that mean, Sebastian said excitedly, that Ms. Ravenclaw and Ms. Hufflepuff also left their legacy at Hogwarts? The Gryffindor stood up and looked at Sebastian with a half-smile. Maybe there is, maybe not. You need to explore it yourself, kid. As he said that, Gryffindor's face straightened, he raised his wand to his chest and gave Sebastian a dual salute. Tell me your name, Slytherin boy. You have my approval. I exist to pass on the legacy of the spell. Now that my wish has been fulfilled, it will soon dissipate. But even if it's just a memory, I don't want it to end in a dull way. Before that, let's have a good fight. Looking at the Gryffindor who was already on the verge of collapse, Sebastian stood opposite him with a serious expression. He raised his wand solemnly to his chest and saluted back at the Gryffindor. Sebastian Swan, Professor of Hogwarts, I would like to ask for your advice. The Gryffindor laughed, raised his magic sword again, and rushed towards Sebastian, while the magic wand in his left hand flashed with the light of magic. Haha, I'm Godric Gryffindor, the headmaster of Gryffindor College. Let me teach you one last lesson. Sebastian did not back down this time, but rushed forward with all his determination, like a stubborn Gryffindor. Farewell Gryffindor teacher. Please, have a safe journey. After a fierce battle, Sebastian appeared outside the secret realm with a bruised face. He covered his face, waved his wand and dragged Robert to his side. Then he pulled out 3 broomsticks and spoke incoherently to the stunned Fred and Snape. Don't ask why. Nothing happened. Ask for everything, thank you very much. Chapter 61. Fred sat bored in the audience seats of the Quidditch field. He felt like he was suffering from what Muggles call traumatic injury syndrome. He wasn't quite sure whether it met the criteria for the disease or not, but that's what Charlie told him. Although a month and a half had passed and it was already mid-May, he still had no interest in anything. Just like the inter-school Quidditch final in front of him, although the game was very intense and exciting, he really couldn't muster up any energy. All the details of that night tour would appear in his mind from time to time. Hey. That night, George also went out for a night walk and waited pitifully in the castle for most of the night. Even now when I think about my own experience, I still find it very exciting. Thinking of this, Fred glanced at Sebastian sitting in the professor's chair with resentment on his face. Hateful. Why did Professor Swan put a gag order on himself? It's such a bizarre experience, but I can't tell anyone anything about it. It's really suffocating. Whether it was the battles between professors or the heritage of Gryffindor, Professor Swan would not allow himself to reveal a single word to the outside world. For this purpose, Professor Swan even made himself sign a magic contract. This is so abominable, this is not trusting yourself. Obviously, he was very good at keeping secrets, and at most he just revealed the truth to George. Fred once maliciously speculated that Professor Swan must have gagged him because he didn't want others to know how miserable he was. After all, he still remembered clearly how miserable Professor Swan looked when he emerged from the secret realm. The professor's right face was a little swollen, his eyes had turned into panda eyes, and his clothes were very messy, as if he had been ravaged by someone. He remembered that after the professor came out, he said something like, "Damn old dang, you are so cruel, hiss, it hurts." Fred's head was full of question marks. Until now, he couldn't figure out what was going on. Isn't it the heritage of Gryffindor? The professor didn't look like he had gained any benefit, but rather like he was in danger. Is that a fake inheritance? How terrible. Fortunately, I was rejected by that light gate. Otherwise, with my own strength, I would probably have to stay there forever. After Professor Swan appeared, the light gate and the boulder cracked together, and now all you can see if you go there is just rubble on the ground. Therefore, what is inside that light gate, probably only Professor Swan knows. Fred looked at Professor Snape, who was sitting next to Professor Swan, and felt a deep admiration for him. Professor Snape is such a workaholic. Despite being injured, he asked the principal for the right to substitute for the defense against the dark arts class. Ever since Professor Robert was sent to Azkaban, Snape has been teaching the defense against the dark arts class. To be honest, Headmaster Dumbledore should really give Professor Snape a special contribution award to recognize his dedicated work attitude. Besides, Fred really wanted to have a good chat with Snape to express his gratitude. Unfortunately, even though Snape had saved his life, they were not familiar with each other and he could not open his mouth. Fred, stop daydreaming. Come on and cheer for Hogwarts. Fred glanced at George, who was urging him to cheer for Hogwarts, and a sense of superiority arose in his heart. George, my silly old man, you have no idea what I've been going through. When the day comes when the truth is revealed, don't be too envious of your brother. Fred perked up and shouted to the sky, Charlie, stop daydreaming and catch the golden snitch. After the preliminaries, the Hogwarts team advanced to the finals with a record of 2 wins and 2 losses, and the Durmstrang team with 3 wins. The game became intense from the start, with the 2 teams fighting hard and the score was very close. To win the game, it now depends on which of the two team seekers is the better one. Charlie was flying in the sky, concentrating on searching for the golden snitch, and he noticed nothing except the sound of the wind. All he had eyes for was the snitch and his rival, Crumb. Suddenly, Crumb began to descend rapidly on his broomstick. Another Wronski fake. Charlie saw through Crumb's intention. He had just confirmed that there was no golden snitch below. A mocking smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and Charlie thought of a classic line he had seen in Muggle Studies class. "How naive, Crumb. The same trick won't work on me." He jerked his broomstick up and climbed high into the sky at full speed, as if he had already discovered the golden snitch and was making the final sprint. Sure enough, after discovering that Charlie was climbing at full speed, Crumb, who was descending rapidly, slammed on the brakes and then chased Charlie with all his might. "Haha, you're just a third-year boy. You're still too young to play psychological warfare on me." Charlie looked at the deadlock score and made a decision in his heart. He decided to take some risks and bring this game to a perfect end. He has already turned down offers from several professional teams, so this may be his last official Quidditch game. He wanted to put a perfect end to his Quidditch career. He wanted Hogwarts to win. He looked at Marcus, and when he noticed him, he made a furtive gesture to him. Then he lowered his flying altitude, squeezed next to Crumb, and flew side by side with him. No matter how Crumb flew, he held on tightly. Charlie was doing three things at once, looking for the golden snitch while closely following Crumb's flight path. Most importantly, he was keeping a tight control on the line of sight between Crumb and Marcus. Finally, Charlie got the opportunity he wanted. He grinned and laughed unscrupulously. "Crumb!" Charlie roared at the top of his lungs, but the strong wind in his face made his voice a little distorted. "Have you ever been knocked down by a bludger?" As soon as the words fell, all the audience members took a deep breath at the same time. A black shadow suddenly whizzed across the sky at an astonishing speed and arrived next to Charlie's face in the blink of an eye. At the critical moment, Charlie lowered his head and dodged the rapidly approaching bludger. Then, the bludger pierced through the air with amazing energy and hit Crumb hard. "Merlin!" the audience screamed. With a thud, Crumb's figure fell to the ground like a bird with broken wings. The sudden change left everyone present stunned. No one expected that in such a fierce game, Charlie and batsman Marcus would play such a wonderful cooperation to help Hogwarts lock in the victory in advance. "Ha ha ha ha, Charlie, well done." Amid Marcus's laughter that resounded throughout the stadium, Durmstrang's headmaster Karkaroff stood up eagerly and ran towards the court. When Crumb opened his eyes in Karkaroff's arms, he heard the whistle for the end of the game. Draw up Hogwarts for the win. Chapter 62. Due to the approaching final exams, the enthusiasm for Quidditch only lasted for 2 days before it died down. There are only 14 days left before the ordinary wizarding level exam. I hope you will take it seriously. This will be the exam that determines the fate of your life. These were the first words Professor McGonagall said to his 5th grade class after the finals. When this sentence was heard, the whole Hogwarts fell into an atmosphere of anxiety. Especially the 5th and 7th grade students, most of them suffered from a disease. A disease that Professor Swan talked about in the Muggle Studies class, pre-exam syndrome. A female student from Ravenclaw even broke down and cried during breakfast, "I'm so stupid, really. It's already this late, and there's still history of magic left to review. What should I do? I can't seem to get all O's. Magical history? Are you serious? So what if I fail this course? Still want to get excellent results in all? Big sister. Consider our feelings. Poor students also have human rights. Stop selling anxiety." After this commotion, 5th and 7th grade students became even more anxious, and more students developed symptoms such as headaches and insomnia. This anxious atmosphere intensified and gradually spread to the young wizards in other grades. Looking at the suffering students, Sebastian gave the little ones some advice based on his own experience in school. If you're stressed out, a combination of a tranquilizer and a stimulant will have a good effect. For a moment, the little ones lined up in a long queue outside the school infirmary. Madame Pomfrey in the school infirmary was so busy that she completely collapsed and found Sebastian and scolded him severely. Faced with this result, Sebastian was helpless. He had no choice but to pay out of his own pocket and get a large amount of potions from Swan Alchemy to meet the huge demand of the students. Along with pre-exam anxiety, various exam tools are also circulating among students. As a professor, Sebastian confiscated all sorts of weird stuff. After severely dealing with a young wizard who sold dried vixen feces as dragon claw powder, Sebastian brought the twin brothers to his office. As soon as he entered the office, Sebastian threw 2 cheating quills on the table. He turned around and looked down at the twin brother standing in front of him with a dark face. The aura he exuded almost made the air in the office freeze. "Tell me, why do you want to refine this kind of thing?" Fred and George lowered their heads so low that they almost touched their chests, as if this would make them disappear from the professor's sight. Their eyes were fixed on the ground, regret and shame were obvious on their faces, their bodies were trembling slightly, and they looked extremely nervous and uneasy. "Did you learn alchemy just to make something like this that's not presentable? Will it be easier to use if you make it yourself?" Sebastian's voice was very stern, he was really angry. He was very optimistic about the 2 brothers. He never kept any questions about alchemy from the brothers and often demonstrated them personally. It can be said that Sebastian regards the twins as half apprentices. These 2 little guys are really hardworking and never complain or feel tired. At the beginning of May, I completed the task assigned by Sebastian and made a perfect Hogwarts navigation map. It would be fine if it was just some joke items, but Sebastian couldn't accept the idea of making cheating items. Fred looked up at Sebastian and said hesitantly, "Professor, we just think it's fun." "Fun?" Sebastian's voice was calm. "Yes, it's fun." Seeing that Professor Swan did not continue to scold them, George also bravely raised his head. "We just saw the cheating quill and thought it was interesting. We wanted to see if our technology could replicate it." Fred can testify to that. "Really? We were competing, and each of us made one. I was just about to find a referee to take a look when you found it. As you know, I haven't been in a good mood recently, so I found something to amuse myself." Hearing this, Sebastian was completely relieved. "Just don't think about cheating." His brows relaxed and the anger in his eyes slowly died down, replaced by helplessness and a hint of self-mockery. "That's right, I'm worrying too much and becoming confused." It seems that they were really wronged. The corners of Sebastian's mouth slightly raised, he shook his head and sighed softly, "I admit that my voice was a bit loud just now. The professor has wronged you." He took out cups and poured 3 full cups of ice cola under the 2 people's delighted gazes. "I apologize to you." Cheers. Fred and George felt refreshed after drinking the ice cola. They thanked him happily and left noisily. No matter how reluctant the little wizards were, the final exams were carried out as scheduled. Due to the particularity of the Muggle Studies course, this exam was scheduled on the last day. In his 2 lives, this is the first time that Sebastian has been an invigilator. Looking at the little ones writing furiously, he felt very satisfied. The students' expressions varied, some were smiling, some were frowning, and some were scratching their ears. "Wow! The exam has only started for half an hour and some people have already finished their test papers and are lying on the tables. Oh! It's Percy, the academic master. That's okay." Sebastian put his hands behind his back and slowly walked around the classroom. The little ones' reactions were even more interesting when they saw the professor approaching them. Some people were so nervous that they were shaking and couldn't even write properly, some people just rolled their eyes at the professor and continued to answer the questions seriously. The brave wizards simply raised their heads, grinned and smiled, showing no fear at all. After the final exams, there are 2 weeks of OWL, ordinary wizarding level, exams exclusively for 5th year students and NEWT, final wizarding test, exclusively for 7th year students. Sebastian did not go to invigilate the exam. Instead, after greeting the examiners from the Wizarding Examination Bureau, he carefully began to mark the exam papers of the 3rd, 4th, and 6th grade students. He wanted to check his teaching results, and the students' grades were the most intuitive reflection of this. Not bad, a lot of O, excellent, and the worst is E, good. Finally, all the exams were over and the students were completely liberated. Except for a few top students who were flipping through books to check the answers, most of the little ones started to party hard. For a moment, the school was filled with laughter. Marcus was only worried about his grades for a moment before going to the Quidditch pitch with his friends to play Quidditch. Percy sorted out his used textbooks and made up his mind to get straight A's in the next year's OWL. Charlie and several 7th-year classmates walked from classroom to classroom, saying their final goodbyes to Hogwarts. Fred regained his energy and he and George got together to discuss another great night tour in the evening. As Dumbledore announced the start of the dinner, the young wizards enjoyed their last meal before leaving school. Slytherin House won the House Cup by 20 points over Ravenclaw House. What was different from previous years was that there was much less discussion in the other 3 colleges. After all, the changes in Professor Snape over the past year were obvious to all. He no longer randomly deducted points from other houses, nor did he arbitrarily add points to his own house. It can even be said that his management of Slytherin House became much stricter. Overall, Slytherin won fairly this year. The young wizards were also very curious about what had caused Professor Snape to change so much. Sebastian sat next to Snape, happily eating the steak on his plate. He looked at Snape, who then glanced in Dumbledore's direction. Then he asked quietly in a voice that only the 2 of them could hear. "Severus, the 10-year deadline is up, and we are going to pick up Harry. Do you want to come?" Chapter 63. Saturday, June 22, 1991. 4 Privet Drive, Little Whinging, Surrey, London. The 2-story building is neat and ordinary, surrounded by well-manicured lawns and flower beds. The Dirsleys who lived here were a typical middle-class family. Vernon Dursley is the host here. He was a burly, ruddy-faced man with a thick beard, who always wore a suit and tie. He loved to yell and give orders. The hostess, Petunia Dursley, is a thin woman who always dresses impeccably and likes to show off the perfection of her home in front of her neighbors. Dudley Dursley is their only son. He is fat, rude, and a typical spoiled child. By the way, they also have a nephew, Harry Potter. Unlike the tall and fat Dudley, his thin figure looked particularly frail. He had a head of shaggy black hair that could never be combed neatly, and because of it, his uncle Vernon always yelled at him angrily. The most striking feature of his face was the lightning-shaped scar on his forehead. His bright green eyes, hidden behind a pair of worn round-frame glasses, often revealed melancholy and longing. Harry was not very happy today, because since getting up early in the morning, Uncle Vernon had the whole family cleaning the house together. The family didn't even have much of a lunch until they had cleaned the house thoroughly inside and out. After dinner, Vernon cleared his throat and solemnly announced to the whole family. "Today is an important day, very, very important. As you all know, after I won the title of Outstanding Executive, a member of the company's board of directors decided to come to our house with his wife." Harry lowered his head and continued washing the dishes, his heart filled with resentment. How could he not know? Uncle Vernon had been stressing this all week. It was a great honor for him to have the board of directors come to visit. From the conversation between Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia, we know that he has been trying to find out the specific information of this mysterious board member. Unfortunately, we only got a few pieces of information. We only knew that this board member had rarely shown up in the company and was very mysterious. However, according to gossip, this board member owns the largest stake in the entire company. This made Uncle Vernon extremely excited, and he kept shouting that he would seize this opportunity to perform well in front of this board member. Harry was feeling a little run down. He had been cleaning all day and was almost exhausted. This is a very precious opportunity. Vernon's voice rose a few notches, sounding unusually serious. Whether you can get a promotion and a raise, become a general manager, become a CEO, and reach the pinnacle of your life depends on tonight. We have to rehearse again. Vernon stood up and directed everyone to get into character. When the time is up, Penny. It's exciting just to think about it. Petunia had a look of longing on her face, and after Vernon glared at her, she quickly smiled kindly. I will stand in the living room and welcome them with the warmest smile. Smile more naturally and more enthusiastically. Under Vernon's command, Petunia finally showed the most perfect smile in his mind. Dudley, my little cutie, you just follow me when the time comes, say hello to the guests first, and then go back to the house to play games. Harry. Listen here, kid. Vernon walked forward, bent over, and stared at Harry fiercely. Since you were 5 years old, I have asked you to move out of the storage room under the stairs and live in the room upstairs. You have never been left out of our food, clothing, and daily necessities. You should know how to be grateful. You'd better stay in your room. He pointed at the lightning scar on Harry's forehead. You know, your scar will always cause disgust to others. If you ruin my good thing, I swear, don't even think about going out for the whole summer vacation. Besides, you have to move out of the upstairs room and go back to the storage room under the stairs. After arranging everything, the Dursleys began their long wait. Vernon kept looking at the clock on the wall. He felt that time was passing particularly slowly today. He even wondered if the damn clock was broken. Finally, the hands on the clock pointed steadily to 8 o'clock. Ding dong! The doorbell rang, and the Dursleys quickly followed the pre-rehearsed procedure. When I opened the door, a well-dressed, tall gentleman was standing outside, and a beautiful lady with exquisite makeup was holding his arm. So young. This was Vernon's first impression. He originally thought that the person who came would be a white-haired old man. He was stunned for a moment, then put on a smile and spoke enthusiastically. "Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Swan." Sebastian smiled and nodded. "Mr. Disley, this is our first meeting. Thank you for your guidance." This was the first time Sebastian saw Vernon Disley. His appearance in real life was almost the same as on the screen in his previous life, still with that bloated figure. Vernon's face was full of smiles. He quickly made way and welcomed the Swans in. As he passed the storage room under the stairs, Sebastian muttered something with some emotion. "What a classic storage room, it's exactly the same." "What?" Vernon behind him didn't hear clearly, he just vaguely heard the word storage room. He glanced at the storage room suspiciously, his mind full of questions. "Is there anything special about this?" "Don't worry about it." Sebastian walked into the living room, greeted Penny, and then sat on the sofa with Mia. Penny smiled, but behind the smile, she felt a little confused. Strangeness. Why does this lady look familiar? As soon as they sat down, before Vernon could say anything, Sebastian opened his mouth to ask. "Mr. Disley, according to the company's information, there should be another member in your family. Call him out and say hello together." Disley opened his mouth and swallowed back what he was about to say. He never expected that the conversation would start in this way. "This is nothing like what we rehearsed." "I do have a nephew," Disley said hesitantly, "he's a little shy, so why not just not call him that?" Sebastian reached out and held down the agitated Mia, and emphasized to Disley. "Just shout it out. That's basic courtesy, isn't it?" Disley had no choice but to leave his seat and call Harry. He was going to personally give Harry some instructions. "And that scar, it would be best to cover it with hair." Penny stayed in the living room chatting with Sebastian. The more she looked, the more familiar Mrs. Swan looked to her. Just when her doubts reached their peak, Vernon appeared with Harry. Harry's mind was full of questions. He was staying well upstairs. As a result, Uncle Vernon came up and insisted that he come down to greet the guests and emphasized various precautions to him. The angle of the smile, the amplitude of the arm swing, the words of greeting, the tone of the voice and so on. Harry's head was getting dizzy with all the complicated rules, and after meeting the guests, he had forgotten most of them. Just as he was trying to recall Uncle Vernon's instructions and preparing to act according to the plan, he saw the man sitting on the sofa waving his arm and greeting him. "Hello. Harry Potter." Chapter 64. The moment Mia saw Harry, her eyes instantly turned red. A surge of emotions surged into her heart, wave after wave, making it hard for her to breathe. The child in front of him was skinny and small, with messy hair and a pair of green eyes exactly like Lily's. This is Lily's baby. This is her best friend's child. This was the child who almost became her godson. Mia stood up immediately, walked forward with tears in her eyes, reached out her hand to push Vernon aside, and held little Harry in her arms. "Harry, you've suffered." Mia's voice was a little choked. "I'm sorry I'm late." "You're 10 years late." At the beginning, after learning that Lily's family was killed and only one child was left, Mia was determined to adopt her friend's child. However, when they arrived at Privet Drive, they were stopped by Dumbledore. Perhaps it was because Dumbledore didn't trust Sebastian at the time. Perhaps it was because Dumbledore was worried that Harry was too famous and would become a playboy when he grew up in the wizarding world. Perhaps it was because of the magic left by Lily that Harry had to live with his relatives. Anyway, Mia's request to adopt Harry was rejected by Dumbledore. What Mia couldn't accept was that Dumbledore asked them to promise not to get close to Harry in any way and interfere with his peaceful life in the Muggle world before the summer vacation when Harry was 11 years old. For this reason, Mia never spoke to Dumbledore again, nor did she forgive Dumbledore. Unlike Mia's pure concern for Harry, Sebastian's feelings towards Harry at that time were very complicated. He not only likes the characters in movies and TV shows from his previous life, but also wants to use Harry's fame to help himself make a name for himself in the wizarding world. Finally, he didn't want to upset his wife Mia. Mia and Lily have a very good relationship, and she really treats Lily's children as her own descendants. Mia always missed Harry, and every year when Harry's birthday was approaching, she would personally select some Muggle toys and write birthday messages on them. Now that she has finally seen the child, how can she not be excited? Harry was extremely confused now. He had no idea what was going on and could only silently ask himself 3 questions. Who I am? Where am I? What am I doing? Harry was strangled to the point of being unable to breathe. He managed to speak with difficulty, "Hello, I don't think I know you guys." Hearing Harry's question, Mia let go of Harry. Just as she was about to explain something, Sebastian's voice came from the side. "Actually, we've known each other for a long time. Do you remember the birthday presents you received when you were 5 years old? In every gift, there will be a birthday message written by us." Birthday present? Harry immediately perked up, because what he looked forward to most every year was his birthday present. Although compared to Dudley's birthday presents, the number was small, only 4. But every time he sees the birthday message inside the gift, he feels very warm and feels that he is loved. Thinking of the source of the gifts, he hesitated and opened his mouth, but, those gifts? Aren't those gifts from Uncle Vernon's company, the Orphan Care Project? It's a different staff every year, I've seen them all. Hearing this, Sebastian felt helpless. Because of his promise to Dumbledore, Sebastian couldn't deliver the gift himself. Therefore, he needs a very sufficient and very legitimate reason. So, when Harry was 5 years old, he acquired a large number of shares in Grannings and became a member of the board of directors of the company where Dursley worked. Afterwards, he set up a charity fund in the company in the name of Caring for Orphans. As long as a company member adopts an orphan, he or she will receive a reward of £1,000 from the company every month. Moreover, on those children's birthdays, company staff will personally visit the children to bring birthday gifts and send birthday wishes. Do you remember the signature at the end of the message? It was signed by Mr. White, Mr. Wolf, Mr. Prince, and Mr. and Mrs. Swan. Hearing this, Harry's eyes became unusually bright, and he understood it all at once. Damn it! Why have I never thought that Mr. Swan and Madame Swan were the Swan couple who sent me gifts? He raised his head and looked at Madame Swan with tears in her eyes, and suddenly felt extremely close to her. Harry's nose became a little sour. Mrs. Swan. Just as he was about to say something, Mia hugged him again. Don't call me Mrs. Swan, just call me Mia from now on. Mia. A short cry sounded, and Penny finally knew who was in front of her. This woman was invited by Lily to visit her home when she was a child. No wonder it looks so familiar. She stood up suddenly, a look of disbelief on her face. You're Lily's friend, the witch. You finally remembered, Petunia. I'm here to pick up Harry today. He needs some magical education. Mom's friend? Witch? Get a magical education. Harry's head was dizzy with the onslaught of this information. Could it be that I am a wizard too? No. Petunia screamed, I absolutely won't allow it. Harry can't go to that damn place and let a bunch of weirdos teach him. Vernon then realized that the 2 people in front of him were wizards, just like Petunia's sister. Hateful. There's a wizard in the house. I have always avoided dealing with these messy people. He quickly ran to Penny and protected her behind him, his face flushed as he roared. You are not welcome here, please leave immediately. Don't even think about taking Harry away. He can't go anywhere. He can only stay in this house. Sebastian motioned for Mia to take Harry away and go pack up first. Then he crossed his fingers and looked at Vernon with a half-smile, appearing very oppressive. Mr. Vernon, we will definitely take Harry away today. I said so. So arrogant? Vernon's face suddenly turned redder, he was breathing heavily, his chest heaving violently, and he became even more furious. You should know that because of Harry, you can get an extra £1,000 every month. I want to ask you, is this money good? That's in accordance with procedures. Vernon tried his best to suppress his anger, fearing that he would yell accidentally, that's a company project, and I applied for it through formal procedures. Really? Sebastian's mouth curled up slightly, you are very naive, Mr. Dursley. You have been working in society for so many years. Haven't you heard that, in many cases, there are carrots before there are pits? The reason why the company established this project is because of Harry. You get extra allowance every month because of Harry. Even the fact that you can meet and talk to the members of the company's board of directors is because of Harry. Vernon's face paled a little with every word Sebastian said, and he looked stunned. Harry is so important? The man in front of him actually had so much power that he could create a project specifically for Harry. Thinking of this, Vernon's anger completely disappeared, leaving only fear in his heart. He finally realized that this man was not only a wizard, but also a member of the company's board of directors. With this identity, he can lose his job with just one word. He has a whole family to support, Penny is unemployed, and Dudley is about to go to Smeltings High School, all of which require money. This despicable wizard must have become a member of the board of directors through evil magic. What should I do? Vernon felt so frustrated. Do I have to bow down to this evil guy just to survive? Mr. Dursley, Sebastian relaxed in his chair, looking nonchalant. I mean no harm. After reviewing your resume, I originally planned to give you a promotion and a raise, allowing you to move up one level and become the manager of your department. But your attitude really makes it difficult for me. Promotion and salary increase? Manager? Vernon's eyes lit up. This is not the oppression of an evil wizard. This is absolutely a case of the company's board of directors having a keen eye for talent. His face was full of smiles again, and he cautiously tried to say, I think it's not impossible for you to take Harry away. It's just that as an aunt, Penny is a little reluctant. He sighed deeply as he thought about Penny's situation. When we brought Harry into this family, Petunia and I swore to keep him away from that horrible world. Vernon glanced at his wife, holding her in his arms, and spoke hesitantly. Petunia is actually worried about Harry's safety. Please take Harry away. I will talk to Petunia. Mr. Dursley, Sebastian smiled, the place where Harry is going to study is called Hogwarts. It's the safest place in the entire wizarding world. Don't worry, Petunia. Harry will come back to see you every summer vacation. Also, I keep my word. You can think about your work plan after you become a manager. The smile on Vernon's face completely spread, and he quickly took out the content of the previous rehearsal and started chatting with Sebastian. When Harry came down after packing up his things, he saw a happy scene. Without giving it much thought, he greeted his uncle and aunt happily, then followed Mia and Sebastian out the door. As soon as he stepped out of the door, Sebastian keenly spotted a familiar figure hiding behind a big tree. In the dim night, almost no one could spot him. Sebastian's mouth widened, and he looked extremely happy. Didn't this Sundaram monster firmly tell himself that he would not come? Hee. Together with Mia, he led Harry down the street. After completely passing the big tree, he grabbed Mia and Harry and whispered something. Apparition. Harry lay on the unfamiliar big bed, recalling the uncomfortable feeling of being crushed just now, and his heart was filled with a sense of novelty. So interesting. Is this magic? He closed his eyes, smiled and said to himself. I love magic. Ask for everything, grateful. Chapter 65. Master Harry, wake up. Harry was immersed in a wonderful dream about magic when he suddenly heard someone calling his name softly. Young master? Are you calling me? He opened his eyes and looked around dazedly. The blurry images confused him. He reached out for the glasses on the bedside table, and after putting them on, his vision immediately became clear. His eyes fell on the bed, and the scene in front of him surprised him. A small creature stood there, with ears as big as bat wings and eyes as round as tennis balls. He is wearing a sophisticated black suit, standing tall and elegant, like a gentleman. The suit has a soft sheen and is well cut, making it look particularly high-end. Harry swore that although he knew nothing about suits, this suit was definitely worth a lot of money. At least his uncle Vernon couldn't afford such a suit. If this was a human, Harry would definitely think it was the kind of butler that only appeared in ancient aristocratic families on TV. What kind of creature is this? I don't know him. He blinked hard to make sure he was not seeing things. His curiosity was instantly aroused. He had never seen such a strange creature before. Hello, Master Harry, the creature bowed politely. Breakfast is ready, sir and madam are waiting for you. Harry quickly sat up and stretched out his right hand. Hello, I'm Harry Potter, who are you? As soon as he finished speaking, Harry saw a surprised expression on the little creature's face, but it was quickly replaced by happiness. It stretched out its hand and shook hands with Harry. I'm Jeff, the Swan family's house elf. You can call me if you need anything. Master Harry, you are a good man just like Mr. and Mrs. You know, wizards never shake hands with elves. Get up quickly, Madam said she's going to take you shopping today. House elves? It's really magical. Harry quickly dressed, washed up and headed to the restaurant. As soon as they entered the restaurant, Mia gave him a big hug and a gentle kiss on his forehead. How did you sleep last night? Are you used to it? I wanted to let you sleep until you wake up naturally, but our schedule today is a bit full. Eat quickly, and after you finish we'll take you to see Diagon Alley, the magical world. Mia pushed Harry into his seat, and then looked at him with loving eyes as he ate his breakfast. Looking at this heartwarming scene, Sebastian smiled with satisfaction. He began to think about the specific arrangements for Harry. If it is an ordinary little one, then the arrangements for the rest of the summer vacation will be simple. Like amusement parks, traveling around, everything can be done. A one-stop service of eating, drinking, and having fun, whatever you want to do to make up for the regrets of your childhood. Even if Voldemort comes back in the future, we can at least avoid him if we can't afford to offend him. But Harry couldn't do that. He had no choice from the beginning. As the weaker party, he could only passively accept his fate. Sebastian carefully recalled the performance of the iron-headed kid in the original book. Except for the defense against the dark arts class, she was not good at other subjects. Often, she and Ronald would refer to Hermione's homework. He definitely didn't study hard, and he wasted his talent. If it weren't for Dumbledore, the god-level babysitter, Harry would never have been able to achieve the final victory. Thinking of this, Sebastian had an idea in mind. Today is enough for a day of rest, starting from tomorrow, Harry must roll up. How about this, let's follow the elite Auror training standards. Sebastian grinned and picked up a glass of milk and placed it in front of Harry. Drink the milk. When you are growing, you need to take more calcium so that you can grow taller. After breakfast, Harry could no longer suppress his excitement and he couldn't wait. Going to Diagon Alley in the wizarding world. Today's journey is sure to be very interesting. But how to get there? Or did it flash by in a flash like it did yesterday? It's not a pleasant feeling to be squeezed. While he was still dreaming, Mia took him to the fireplace. Normally, the first time I took you to Diagon Alley, I should have gone through the leaky cauldron, but I saw that you were in pain for a long time after you applaud last night. So, we use the fireplace to travel today, which is convenient and quick, and will not make you feel uncomfortable. She handed Harry a small bag of shiny green powder, and then stood in the fireplace under Harry's puzzled gaze. This is Flu powder, Harry. Stand in the fireplace and say Diagon Alley clearly and I will show you. She threw the Flu powder in her hand down to her feet, and with a flash of green fire, she disappeared. Harry's mouth opened as big as an egg. He was stunned. He couldn't imagine that wizards could travel quickly with the help of fire. He grabbed a handful of Flu powder and looked at Sebastian nervously. Don't worry, Harry, Sebastian patted Harry's shoulder, don't be nervous, just say Diagon Alley clearly. It only takes a blink of an eye for you to see Mia. Let's take a step back, Sebastian patted his chest confidently, even if you are wrong, I can still follow you, don't worry. Harry was no longer nervous after hearing Sebastian's assurance, and he walked into the fireplace, shouting excitedly. Diagon Alley. In an instant, he felt himself being swept up by a powerful force. Everything in front of him was spinning rapidly. As soon as he closed his eyes, he felt a solid touch under his feet. He opened his eyes and saw Mia looking at him with a smile on her face. Behind her was an extremely busy street. Harry stared at the scene before him in amazement. This was a strange other world he had never seen before, and his eyes could hardly believe what he saw. Diagon Alley was bustling with wizards and witches, all wearing robes of all kinds. They were holding all kinds of strange objects in their hands. Some were holding small bottles with light smoke coming out, some were waving sparkling wands, and some were holding strange pets in their arms. He looked around eagerly, and every shop he saw exuded a unique charm. Madame Malkin's robe shop, Gringotts, Owl Post, Quidditch boutique, and so on. Welcome to Diagon Alley, Harry. Mia waved, and after Harry walked out of the fireplace, she put a cool-looking men's wallet into Harry's hand. Here's your pocket money, 1,000 gold galleons. 1,000 gold galleons? Harry didn't know what a gold galleon was, but the amount of 1,000 made him feel that it was not a small amount of money. He waved his hands in panic. This is too much, Mia. How about you give me 10? No, I mean 5 gold galleons. Mia smiled and ruffled Harry's hair. Take it, take it. These are all given by me as an elder. You can't refuse them. Besides, this is just a little pocket money. When you inherit your family's treasury, you probably won't care about this little money anymore. Treasury. Harry's eyes widened in confusion and surprise. He had never heard of any treasury in his family, let alone any inheritance. In this strange magical world, everything made him feel both excited and confused. Mia looked at Harry's confused expression and quickly patted his shoulder to comfort him. "Don't worry, we will help you find the key to your family's safe." As she said this, she smiled at Sebastian who had caught up with her, then took Harry's hand and walked forward. "Let's go, I'll make you some handsome clothes first. Madame Malkin's craftsmanship is very trustworthy." Looking at the two figures, one tall and one short, walking forward, Sebastian smiled slightly and followed them with big strides. "Wait for me, I haven't caught up yet." Chapter 66. Sebastian was sitting at the booth of Florin Fusco's ice cream shop, eating his ice cream contentedly. Been shopping for the whole morning. So tired. Even more tiring than fighting Gryffindor. Take a break and have some ice cream. After Harry picked out his wand, they would go to London for dinner. "I will continue shopping in London's commercial centre in the afternoon, and I will probably be even more tired by then than I am now. At the very least, when shopping in the wizarding world, everything you buy can be put into your own seamless stretch bag. In the Muggle world, the big and small things can really kill you." Sebastian really wanted to give himself a leg massage, but he had to hold back in order to maintain his image. "Sebastian, I didn't expect to see you here eating ice cream, what a coincidence." A slow voice came from the side, interrupting Sebastian's leisurely mood. "Why? The leisure time is over. I can't even be alone for a while." He raised his head and looked in the direction where the sound came from. Standing in front of him was Lucius Malfoy. He was tall with long silver hair neatly draped over his shoulders. His face was as pale as snow, with delicate features, revealing a cold and noble look. However, his eyes were cold grey, flashing with a gloomy light with unparalleled arrogance and contempt. He was wearing a well-cut, high-quality black robe, accessorized with expensive silver jewelry, revealing the dignity and pride of a pure-blood noble. Sebastian had mixed feelings towards Lucius. He despised his vision in investing in Voldemort, but he also admired his ability and courage to support the Malfoy family at such a young age. After joining the Death Eaters, he quickly became one of Voldemort's most trusted servants. After Voldemort's disappearance, he quickly turned to the Ministry of Magic, and with his skillful dealings, he helped a group of pure-blood families avoid the Ministry's liquidation. Now, those extreme pure-blood families all follow the Malfoy family, and Lucius himself has become the representative of those families. He was also the representative of the Death Eaters who were on the fence in Sebastian's mouth. Because of this, the Swan family and the Malfoy family had a long honeymoon period. When Snape was first recruited into the Death Eaters, it was Lucius who took care of him. So, until now, the Swan family and the Malfoy family are still close business partners. "Senior, what a coincidence, are you here to buy something or to take care of family business? Come and sit down, I'll treat you to ice cream." Draco has been clamoring to come. Lucius sat in the seat next to him with an indulgent smile on his face. "Today is the weekend, so Narcissa and I are bringing him to Diagon Alley for a stroll. It's a good time to prepare the supplies for the start of school. The preparation list for first grade is the same every year anyway. After Draco enters Slytherin, he will need your and Severus's care." Sure. Sebastian turned his head and looked around. "Where are Narcissa and Draco?" "They went to Ollivanders to buy wands. I saw you sitting here, so I came over to say hello." "Buying a wand? What a coincidence. Harry was there now. Could they be friends now? This is interesting." At the same time, in Ollivanders, a little boy with blonde hair saw Harry who was choosing a wand. "Hello, my name is Malfoy, Draco Malfoy." Malfoy raised his head slightly and introduced himself proudly. The black-haired little boy opposite should also be a freshman at Hogwarts this year, otherwise he would not come here to buy a wand. "Very good, the noble Malfoy still needs some followers. After all, Dad said, if you want to get involved in a gang, you have to rely on power. Boy, come and please me." "Hello, my name is Harry Potter, nice to meet you." Although Harry thought the kid opposite him was a little strange, he still extended his right hand in a friendly manner. "Harry Potter?" Malfoy raised his voice in surprise. "Is that Harry Potter? Is there a mark on your forehead?" Before he could finish, he noticed the lightning scar on Harry's forehead. "My Merlin!" It turned out to be the real Harry Potter. "Very good, this is the kind of friend the noble Malfoy needs. You will gain Malfoy's true friendship." "Hello, we are friends now." He quickly extended his hand and shook Harry's hand. "You want to buy a wand?" I can give it to you. No, I can buy it myself. I have pocket money. Harry pulled his hand out with great effort. He felt that the little boy's attitude had changed a bit, which made him very uncomfortable. Pocket money, that's just a few dollars, you should keep it and let Master Malfoy pay for you. Today I'll let you see the financial strength of the Malfoy family. Putchie. A light laugh came from the side, immediately causing Malfoy to glare at him. Who is so bold to mock the Malfoys? Hey? I came in so quickly that I didn't notice it at all. This seems to be Mrs. Swan. Malfoy's brains were a little insufficient. Could it be that Harry Potter came with Mrs. Swan? Harry's voice sounded, Aunt Mia just gave me 1,000 gold galleons as my pocket money. Harry was curious. After a morning of shopping, he had an idea of the purchasing power of 1,000 galleons. But from what Malfoy said, he seemed to look down on this little money. How rich must the Malfoy family be? Interesting. This can be considered as a broadening of horizons and a deepening of my understanding of the magical world. 1,000 gold galleons? Pocket money. Malfoy's face turned red and white. He felt ashamed, and embarrassed himself. Just when he wanted to show off his financial resources, he was slapped in the face on the spot, and the key point was that he couldn't refute it. Malfoy, you haven't told me how much pocket money you have. Tell me now, and satisfy my curiosity. Hearing this, Malfoy felt ashamed and angry. You, the guy with thick eyebrows and big eyes, are you deliberately making fun of me? He gave Harry an annoyed look, then pulled his mother and walked out. Mom, I'm a little hungry. Let's go eat first and then buy the wand later. Why do you seem angry? Harry glanced innocently at Mia, who was laughing so hard, shrugged and continued to choose his wand. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Harry sat on the sofa, playing with his beloved wand with a heavy heart. He really had too many questions. What are you thinking about, Harry? Sensing that Harry was worried, Mia sat down next to him and asked softly. Just tell me if you have any troubles. Sebastian and I will help you. I was just wondering, Harry's eyes were full of confusion, how did my parents die? Did they really die in a car accident? I have seen many strange things about wizards today, so I don't believe they died in a car accident. Car accident? Mia looked at Sebastian in confusion. Who said that? Did Penny tell you? Yes, Harry's voice became excited, I want to know the truth, can you tell me? Mia hesitated. She didn't know how to tell Harry the cruel truth. Harry. Seeing that Mia was a little embarrassed, Sebastian took the initiative to speak, his voice gentle but firm. The situation here is very complicated and cruel. Are you ready to face the truth? The cruel truth? There is indeed a hidden story. Harry was agitated, he had to know everything no matter how cruel it was. He sat up straighter, his gaze firm and sharp, looking directly into Sebastian's eyes. I'm ready, please tell me everything. Your parents were killed by a man named Voldemort. Sebastian's voice slowly sounded, slowly telling the story of what happened after Voldemort's rise. In the end, your mother Lily used her body to block Voldemort. She performed a very ancient magic to protect you, and then she was brutally murdered. Because of this protection spell, the spell Voldemort fired at you was reflected back and hit himself. He was seriously injured and went into hiding. And you, the only survivor at the scene, are called the savior of the magic world by everyone. Hearing this, Harry broke down in tears and sobbed. Sebastian's voice deepened. Harry, no matter what anyone says, you need to know that your mother is the one who saved everything. One day, that big devil will come back again. One day, he will hunt you down again. The problem is... Sebastian's voice turned serious. When that day comes, do you have the courage to stand up and face that big devil? When that day comes, will you have the courage to wave your wand at him and avenge your parents? When that day comes, Sebastian paused, will you have the strength to defeat him? Harry's eyes were red, he wiped away his tears fiercely and said hatefully. I want to avenge my parents. I will do whatever it takes to kill him. So, Mr. Swan, I would like you to teach me magic. Chapter 67. As soon as she sent Harry back to the bedroom, Mia stretched out her wand and cast an ear-blocking spell towards Harry's room. She turned her head and stared at Sebastian fiercely, then stretched out her right hand and pinched the soft flesh on his waist and twisted it hard. I kept winking at you, so hard that wrinkles appeared on my face, How could you just pretend you didn't see anything? Tell Harry everything. He's only a little old. Isn't there something he should know now? And let him take revenge? Let him face the mysterious man. Isn't this the same plot you told me about in Journey to the West, where Beng Bobaba went to capture Tang Monk and his disciples? Wrong, it's Ben Boerba. Sebastian replied carefully. Is this a name thing? Mia's voice rose an octave, and seeing Sebastian's unfocused look, she gritted her teeth and used her right hand again to twist it hard. He's still a kid. Do you think he can defeat the mysterious man after a few years of training? You want him to do something that Dumbledore didn't even do? What the hell are you doing? As if she still wasn't satisfied, Mia picked up the pillow on the sofa and threw it at Sebastian twice. All right, Sebastian hugged Mia and patted her back to comfort her. It's my fault. I let you wink at a blind man. Please listen to my explanation first. Sebastian spoke softly, rocking Mia gently in his arms, as if coaxing a child, and giving her earnest advice. This will give Harry an incentive to work harder. You also know what the atmosphere at Hogwarts is like. I'm afraid that once he goes to school, he will lose interest in studying. Besides, it's always good to work hard to improve your strength. I didn't expect him to do anything to the Dark Lord. I just hope that he will be able to confront those Death Eaters head-on. At the very least, he won't be captured so easily. Even if you can't beat them, you have to be able to run away. Mia's tense back slowly relaxed, and she leaned her head on Sebastian's shoulder, sobbing softly. I just feel sorry for Harry. He is still so young, but he has to bear such a heavy fate. You have to teach well and not hide anything. Do you hear me? She raised her head and looked at Sebastian with tearful eyes, then stretched out her right hand and gently rubbed the part that had just been twisted. Does it hurt? I apologize. I was just a little impatient just now. Sebastian wiped the tears from Mia's face lovingly, then patted his chest hard. Don't worry, it's safe. It's just a small matter. You go back to sleep first, and I'll think about tomorrow's teaching content. Hearing the sound of the door closing, Sebastian immediately grimaced. It hurts so much. Hiss. All purple. He took out the potion and applied it to the wound while looking hatefully in the direction of Harry's room. Good for you, Potter. I was injured so badly when I first arrived. Tomorrow, I will definitely train you well. The next morning, Harry followed Sebastian to his study. Mia is very busy at her job at St. Mungo's Hospital. She's not home during the day, so she won't be able to accompany you. Well, let's start studying. While you're studying, you can call me Professor Swan. Harry immediately raised his hand, looking like a curious baby. Professor Swan, I have a question. He picked up his wand and showed it to Sebastian. Do wizards have to use wands? I didn't have a wand when I was at my aunt's house, but I still did a lot of incredible things. Once my aunt forced me to wear a dress I didn't like, and the dress quickly shrank until no one could wear it. Also, Harry touched his hair and smiled sheepishly, maybe because I've always wanted to cover the scar on my forehead with my hair grows really fast. There were many times when I would go to the barber shop one day and the next day my hair would grow back. So, I was wondering, why use a wand? Wouldn't it be more convenient to not use a wand? That's a lot of ideas. No to ask why when something happens. And this question is quite profound. That's right. A child who suddenly comes into contact with the magical world should have 100,000 questions in his mind. Having said that, in the original book, Harry was also very studious when he first entered school, and he would take notes diligently in class. But after being with Ronald every day, I gradually became less hardworking. Good question, Sebastian nodded with a smile. For powerful wizards, it is indeed possible to cast spells without a wand, like this. He snapped his fingers casually, and a bottle of Coke flew over like an arrow and landed steadily on the table in front of the two people. Although this is convenient, with a wand, I can more easily control the power of the spell and perform more delicate operations. However, the little wizard's magic power is very unstable. You can't always do what you want. When you are 2 years older, your magic power will become stronger. If you cannot control the output of magic power stably, it will be dangerous. Sebastian pointed to the wand in Harry's hand. At this time, the magic wand is very important. Through it, we can release magic power stably. That way, we can release the spell safely. Therefore, a wand is essential for young wizards who are just starting to learn magic, and even for adult wizards. Without their wands, many wizards can't even cast a spell. So, you must protect your wand. This is the basis for us wizards to survive. Sebastian opened his Coke and took a long sip. Harry, the release of a spell is inseparable from 3 points, the casting gesture, the spell's incantation, and our magic power. Then, we need to first figure out what magic is. What is magic? Harry shook his head. He couldn't figure it out. I haven't read the book yet. I don't know the definition in the book. Haha, the concepts in the book are too abstract. You probably won't understand them even if you read them. Don't worry, I'll show you how to do it yourself. There's a particularly suitable spell here, the levitation spell. Its spell is Wingardium Leviosa, watch my wand, a wave and a flick. As they spoke, the feathers in front of the two men floated gently under Sebastian's command. The spell must be clear, otherwise it is easy to cause unpredictable dangers. Hearing Sebastian's instructions, Harry quickly repeated the pronunciation of the spell several times, then stretched out his wand and cast a spell on the feather in front of him. Once, twice, 3 times. The feather still lay quietly on the table, motionless, as if mocking Harry's incompetence. Harry recalled Sebastian's movements and tried hard to recreate them. He became more and more anxious, and the wand in his hand danced faster and faster. Hearing the sound of Harry waving his wand, Sebastian, who had no idea what was happening, reached out his hand to stop Harry. Harry, you don't have to copy my movements exactly. It's actually very simple, just a wave and a shake. Don't be impatient. Being impatient is a big taboo when studying. Also, remember what I'm going to say next. Magic is the power of making your wishes come true, it is the power of belief. You must firmly believe that the spell you cast will succeed. Don't doubt yourself. Sebastian had a smile on his face, and his voice was very firm, with a power that made people believe in him. Come on, take a deep breath, relax your mind, wave your magic wand naturally, and believe that you will succeed. Harry closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He didn't open his eyes until his mind slowly calmed down. He looked at the feather in front of him firmly. He moved his arm slightly, using the strength of his wrist to drive the wand. A wave and a shake. Wingardium Leviosa. Chapter 68. The feather floated gently and slowly off the table, like an elegant dancer dancing in the air. It seemed to be telling Harry something, and also seemed to be cheering for his success. Harry was filled with joy, this time he succeeded. Excellent! Sebastian praised. Feel it carefully. Is there some inexplicable thing flowing through your arm to your wand? Also, is there an invisible connection between your wand and the feather? That's your magic. Harry quickly focused his attention on his wand. He gently turned the magic wand, and the feathers in the sky moved in step with the movement of the magic wand. He discovered that there was an invisible force between the wand and the feather. It cannot be seen or touched. But it does exist. So this is the magic. Are you excited? Do you want to learn powerful spells quickly? Harry nodded vigorously. It's not that difficult. He is now full of fighting spirit. He can't wait to learn and kill. I'm sorry. Sebastian's voice sounded, pouring cold water on Harry's excitement. Many powerful spells are based on strong magic. Your magic power is still too weak. Even if the pronunciation and gestures of the spells are all correct, you can't release those powerful spells. Don't worry, I will teach you some minor evil spells first, and you will be able to exert a certain degree of strength at your current level. Remember the feeling of magic flowing through your body, and let's go to the duel field now. Duel arena. Harry's heart was filled with anticipation. He had already discovered the empty space in the yard. But he had always thought it was a Muggle tennis court. He had been curious as to why there was no net on the court. After arriving at the dueling arena, Sebastian began his spell teaching again. Unlike the levitation spell just now, the little evil spell is an offensive spell. Do you remember the feeling just now? After casting the levitation spell, your wand and the feather were connected together by your magic power. But minor curses are completely different. Once they are out of your wand, there is no connection between them and your wand. It's like when you take a stone and throw it, once the stone leaves your hand, you can no longer control it. Sebastian waved his hand, and an alchemical doll for practicing spells appeared in the duel arena. There was a flash of red light, and the spell hit the puppet's chest. Harry, with spells like this, accuracy is very important. Does it feel familiar? Harry's eyes lit up and he quickly replied, I know. I've seen it on TV. This is how soldiers practice shooting. That's right, Sebastian confirmed, but there's one difference. Our spell will work wherever it touches the enemy's body. But don't forget that our opponents are often wizards too. They can move and dodge. So, the accuracy of the spell, the control of the magic power, the timing of the attack, and the pace of your feet are all very important. Next, I will train you in these aspects. You must be prepared to endure hardships. With the levitation charm as a foundation, Harry learned the little evil spells very quickly, and after a while, he could use these spells quite well. Sebastian nodded repeatedly. Good. He is indeed talented. In just a short while, I learned all these little spells. The accuracy is also very high, and I can hit the puppet almost every time. Even when moving, he has a good hit rate. Seeing this, Sebastian showed a wicked smile on his face and walked to the other side of the duel arena. Harry, just beating puppets is meaningless, and it will only do limited good to improving your strength. You know, actual combat is the best way to improve your strength. Come. Attack me with all your strength. Let me see your progress. He simply stood there, and it sent chills down Harry's spine and made his scalp tingle. Harry's eyes glazed over and the corners of his eyes twitched slightly. No way. I haven't even left the novice village yet, and you want me to fight with you? How can I, a level 1 account, challenge the boss? This kind of routine. I have never seen it before. Aunt Mia. Sebastian is bullying the kids while you're away. Harry swallowed the bitterness in his mouth, gritted his teeth, raised his wand and pointed it at Sebastian. He didn't want to back down. Nor can we back down. If I back down now, how will I face Voldemort in the future, and how will I avenge my parents? We must dare to draw our swords and cast spells on the strong. Harry felt his courage fill up again. Since we can't defeat them by force, we can only defeat them by wits. Professor Swan, please don't blame me for not being a man of honor. Sneak attack. Grin hula. It's pretty good, but too slow. The front teeth are like sticks. Don't just stand there, your offensive intentions will be too obvious. Move forward. Weak legs and limp feet. Oh, you almost hit me, come on. Tarantella dance. Very good, that's progress. However, I'm going to fight back, so be careful to dodge. At night, Harry lay in bed and he felt like his body no longer belonged to him. So tired. I really want to go back to the Dursleys. His hands were too heavy to lift, they were from waving a wand. My legs are still shaking from running back and forth to avoid the spell. My whole body was tingling. According to Sebastian, it was the tingling sensation after the magic power was exhausted, which was a normal phenomenon. He also told himself that he would slowly get used to this feeling in the future. I want to cry. But Harry recalled the training during the day, and a satisfied smile gradually appeared on the corners of his mouth. Great, I learned a lot today. I have made great progress too. At the very least, apart from the first few spells that caused him some pain, he was able to dodge all the subsequent spells. Hey. This is called body technique. He closed his eyes and encouraged himself with a trembling voice. Good luck tomorrow. For the next half-month, Harry maintained strict training and challenged his limits every day. In order to ensure that Harry's body would not be overdrawn, Sebastian did meticulous logistical support. In addition to the delicious meals he prepared, he also prepared various nourishing potions for Harry to replenish his strength and energy after training. These potions are like liquid miracles. Every time Harry finished training and was so tired that he almost fell down, he just had to drink a bottle of vitality tonic and his strength would be quickly restored. This always amazed him, the effect of the potion was really magical. Seeing how obsessed Harry was with potions, Sebastian couldn't help but think, why not let Snape give Harry some special lessons too? He has nothing to do during the holidays anyway. Just do it. Meet him at Spinner's End tomorrow. He. Severus, I have brought Harry to you. You guys have to get along well. Ask for everything, thank you very much. Chapter 69. In the early morning sunshine, Spider's Tail Alley welcomed two guests, one tall and one short. They ignored the dirty and messy surroundings and came to a house at the end of the alley. Bang, bang, bang. When there was a knock on the door, Snape opened it expressionlessly and complained to the person outside. Sebastian, why do you have to say it in person? Why didn't you make it clear in your letter yesterday? You should know that not everyone is as free as you. Before he could finish his words, Snape saw the boy behind Sebastian. Suddenly, his lifeless eyes became disturbed and his pupils shrank violently. After seeing the boy's green pupils clearly, his heart tightened even more, making him slightly breathless. Morning, Severus. You don't even have to ask if you want the students or not. I'll bring them to you now. Unlike Snape, who had a blank expression, Sebastian smiled brightly. Why are you stunned? No more complaining? Say it. I'm listening. He. Sebastian pushed Snape out of the way and led Harry into the living room. I was afraid that you would be too lonely at home during the holidays, so I found a good candidate for you. Sebastian raised an eyebrow at Snape smugly and nudged him with his elbow. What do you think? I'm nice enough, bro. Come on, this is Harry Potter. He is very interested in potions and can definitely satisfy your requirements. Harry, don't just stand there, this is Professor Snape, come and say hello. Harry quickly took 2 steps forward, saluted to Snape, and then said carefully, Hello, Professor Snape. Snape's mind had been a little fuzzy ever since he saw those green eyes. It was too dark that night and only vague outlines could be seen, unlike now, when all the details were clearly visible. Why are they so similar? Those eyes are exactly like Lily's. This is Lily's son. Looking at the face that looked so much like James Potter, Snape suddenly came to his senses and felt extremely upset. This face really doesn't match these eyes. Bad review. He calmed himself down and cleared these distracting thoughts from his mind. Then, he used all his strength to calm the sound of his gnashing teeth. Sebastian, come with me first. Harry, sit down and rest first. Sebastian patted Harry's shoulder. I'm going to discuss the teaching content with Professor Snape. Don't worry, Professor Snape will like you. Harry stared at the two of them leaving the living room and entering a room that looked like a studio. He only took a quick glance inside and saw a workbench filled with potion tools. After the door was completely closed, he began to look around the living room carefully. It was a dim and small room, furnished with a few simple pieces of furniture, an old sofa and a somewhat worn coffee table. In the center of the room is a huge desk, piled with various magic books. There was also an old oil lamp on the table, emitting a faint yellow light, making the room even darker. Bookshelves lined the walls, filled with heavy books and scrolls, each one looking very old and precious. A strong smell of herbs and potions filled Harry's nostrils, making him realize clearly that he had come to the home of a potion master. But, unlike Sebastian, who always has a smile on his face, this professor is very serious and seems difficult to get along with. Harry was a little hesitant. He really wanted to learn skills from this potions master, but he was worried that the other party looked down on him. For a moment, he became anxious and worried. At the same time, Snape, who had just entered another room and closed the door, pulled out his wand and cast an ear-blocking charm towards the living room. He could no longer maintain that calm expression on his face, and his tone was no longer calm but full of anger. A whole Sebastian! How could you bring Harry to me? Do you know who I am? What's your identity? Sebastian said nonchalantly, he's just a professor at Hogwarts. Snape was so angry that his mouth was almost twisted. This BD stinky swan can always make me angry with just a few words. He yanked open the sleeves on his arms, revealing the special symbol. I'm a Death Eater, don't tell me you forgot. Anyone who witnesses Harry's presence here would be in danger. The Dark Lord will come back sooner or later. What will you let me do then? What should we do? Sebastian calmly soothed, just turn it around. Wouldn't it be more satisfying if you just joined the side of justice and fought the Dark Lord openly? I'm undercover. Snape's voice was full of pain. He only revealed his true self in front of this good friend. I can't stand in the Sunday. Snape's voice was somewhat bleak. Besides, Dumbledore would not allow me to do that. After all, this was the promise I made to him at the time. FKU Dumbledore, just tell him he quits. Sebastian also felt a little angry, and his voice became urgent. I'm not afraid to tell you that I'm just waiting for an opportunity. Once the timing is right, even Lucius will fall to our side. We really don't need an undercover agent like you. You could just stand in the sun and just be a professor at Hogwarts, Severus. As if he had vented all the frustration in his heart, Snape's face became expressionless again. Being undercover was my own choice. I hope you can understand, my friend. After all, I want revenge on the Dark Lord in my own way. Oh, by the way, Harry is still waiting outside. Snape pointed his finger toward the sky. Maybe Lily is watching now too, don't let her worry. Now that Harry's arrival is a fact, I will do my best to teach him. After all, Lily is very talented in potions, and I won't let Harry waste this talent. After saying that, he opened the door and walked towards the living room. Looking at the scene in the living room, his breathing stagnated slightly. This damn stinky Swan. I didn't even know to tell you in advance that Harry would be coming. My room is not cleaned. This table is too messy. Sebastian followed Snape out, looking at Harry on the sofa and smiling as he spoke. Harry, I have to go first. I have to go to Hogwarts. I will pick you up in the evening. If you're hungry or thirsty, just tell Professor Snape. Don't be shy. Bye-bye. Sebastian left, leaving Snape and Harry staring at each other. Snape tried to ignore Harry's face and just look him in the eyes. Mr. Potter, what would happen if you added powdered narcissus root to the wormwood infusion? I don't know, Professor. Harry shook his head. What is Bezoar? What does it do? Where can I find it? I don't know, Professor. Harry's voice became much quieter. What is the difference between Aconitum naviculatum and Aconitum camajasm? Harry lowered his head completely. Completion. I couldn't answer any of the questions. You should have reviewed the textbook before coming here. He will definitely be kicked out now. Just when he was worried about how to get back if he was kicked out, Snape's words brought him from hell to heaven. Very good. If you know everything, you don't need me as a professor. I'll give you an automatic quill pen, which can record everything we learn in class. Now, let the class begin. Chapter 70. After leaving Snape's house, Sebastian went to Hogwarts to meet Dumbledore as planned. Hogwarts seems particularly quiet during the holidays, completely different from the bustling scene during the term. The corridor was no longer filled with the noise of students. Only a few ghosts floated by, leaving behind a slightly cold atmosphere. The marble staircase stood quietly, no longer echoing with hurried footsteps. The hall seemed unusually empty, and there were no flocks of owls circling above the ceiling carrying letters and packages. After Sebastian pushed open the door of the principal's office, the scene in front of him made him laugh. Headmaster Dumbledore was holding a colorful feather pen in his hand and was using it to tease his phoenix, Fawkes. Fawkes stood motionless on the shelf. When he was annoyed, he rolled his eyes, then flapped his wings restlessly and made a few dissatisfied chirps, as if complaining that the old man was so boring. Wow! This feels damn familiar. Isn't this exactly the same as how Muggle old men like to walk their birds? It's just that Lao Dang played at a higher level, using the phoenix. Such a high-level play. Seeing Sebastian come in, Dumbledore returned to his seat, put down the quill in his hand, and smiled kindly. Oh, Sebastian, I heard you have a special little guest at home? Please take a seat. Sebastian smiled and nodded, sitting in the chair across from Dumbledore. Yes, Headmaster Dumbledore, you are very well informed. Harry is now living in my house. I took him on a tour of London and showed him around Diagon Alley. The little guy is very curious about the magical world and is passionate about learning spells. It just so happens that I am quite good at this. Moreover, after a year of teaching, I am quite adept at teaching students. So, I taught him a few little spells, and he practices them very diligently every day. In addition, Harry has shown great interest in learning potions, so I found him a good teacher, Severus. He lives a fulfilling life every day. Dumbledore's eyes flashed with helplessness. Then you must be very busy. However, Harry is still young, you must not tire him out. To be honest, Dumbledore immediately heard Sebastian's ambition to train Harry with all his strength. He was a little worried, as Harry must have known his background by now. He didn't want Harry to grow up to be an extremist who lived for revenge. But he couldn't say this openly, otherwise it would create a rift between him and Sebastian. Therefore, he could only change his way of saying it in a euphemistic way. He didn't have a happy childhood, so I hope he can be more relaxed and happier. Once he gets to Hogwarts, he'll have plenty of time to study. Sebastian sighed inwardly. Other little wizards can do this, but can Harry do the same? He is a thorn in Lao Fu's side. It won't take a few years for Lao Fu to make a comeback. If we don't race against time to improve Harry's strength, are we going to let him live under our wings forever? For young wizards, happiness is the most important thing. What do you think, Sebastian? It's this happy education argument again. Sebastian felt very conflicted. Dumbledore doesn't even look at how much the British wizarding world has declined. When I graduated, due to the pressure of war, almost all graduates knew the armor spell. In contrast, nowadays, very few Hogwarts graduates can use the shield charm. Even many Auror trainees are unable to use this defensive spell. Because of this, Scrimgeour, the head of the Auror office, lost his temper a lot. In the past 2 years, fewer and fewer students have been able to become Auror trainees right after graduation. Even Mia had told herself that it was becoming increasingly difficult to recruit satisfactory therapists at St. Mungo's Hospital. What about other aspects? How long has it been since Hogwarts participated in a major international tournament? How long has it been since Hogwarts students appeared in worldwide competitions like the Magic School Potions Championship? If you don't communicate with the outside world all day, you won't know how high the level of students in other countries is. Anyway, judging from the news sent back from Swan's alchemy branch in the United States, the graduates of Ilvermorny School look down on British wizards. In their mouths, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry has become Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Sebastian curled his lips slightly, totally disagreeing with what Dumbledore said. However, he didn't want to continue arguing with Dumbledore on this issue. After all, he wasn't meeting with Dumbledore today to argue about this. I will seriously consider your idea, Sebastian said with a smile and changed the subject. I came here today to discuss with you the reform plan for next school year. Reform plan? Dumbledore asked with interest. At the beginning of last school year, Sebastian made a bold statement. According to Dumbledore's observation, the members of the Quidditch school team were able to get along very harmoniously in the later stages. Besides, won't the final results prove everything? What is even more surprising is that a number of cross-house friendships have emerged on campus, especially among the third-year wizards. And one thing they all had in common was that they all took Muggle Studies class. It now seems that this young man Sebastian has indeed achieved some initial success in breaking down the barriers within the academy. Of course, the road is still long. Now, Dumbledore wanted to hear what other ideas this young man had. My program is called Work Study, and it works in 2 ways. First, for students with excellent academic performance, they can apply to become teaching assistants for professors of various subjects. Let me give you an example. In the Charms class, some little wizards can learn new spells right away, but many more little wizards learn more slowly. This phenomenon is also very obvious in Transfiguration and Potions classes. And because there are so many students, the professors cannot take care of every little wizard in time. At this time, the teaching assistants can work with the professors to provide assistance to those little ones. The young wizards who become teaching assistants can not only earn some living expenses, but they can also consolidate the knowledge they have learned while teaching other young wizards. This has a famous name among Muggles, it's called the Feynman learning method. Sebastian talked attentively, introducing the benefits to Dumbledore. Secondly, we also need to take into account those students who are not so good at studying. Some of them come from Muggle families, and some come from ordinary wizarding families. We can offer some jobs, for example, taking care of the herbs in the greenhouse, or preparing potion materials for potions class. In this way, they can earn a living for themselves through their own efforts. I believe that they will study hard on their own initiative and make themselves qualified for the jobs provided by the school. After saying that, Sebastian took out a thick plan and handed it to Dumbledore. Dumbledore was very interested in this work-study program. He quickly opened the plan and read it carefully. This time, he read slowly and thought for a long time. Finally, he raised his head and looked at Sebastian awkwardly. It's a good plan. But there is a serious problem. The school's funding is not enough. Chapter 71. Not enough funds? I've been waiting for you to say this. If you have sufficient funds, I won't be able to say anything about what happens next. Don't worry, Principal, Sebastian said confidently, I am willing to invest in the school. 10,000 gold galleons. What do you think? Dumbledore beamed at Sebastian's assurance. 10,000 gold galleons would be enough to implement this work-study program for at least 1 year. Otherwise, I would have to worry about not being able to pay the professors' salaries. Before he could say anything, he saw a very mercenary smile on Sebastian's face, which made his heart skip a beat. This smile seems familiar. It was exactly the same as last school year when this guy came to me to learn spells. Principal, Sebastian said with a greasy smile on his face, look at the huge investment I made in the school. Can you do me a small favor, broken? This is coming towards me. But the best skills have already been taught to others. I should have kept some in reserve. Dumbledore asked calmly without showing any emotion, tell me about it. Headmaster, I just want to meet Gellert Grindelwald through you. Hearing this familiar name, Dumbledore's eyes became dazed. His eyes became distant and empty, as if he had touched those long-forgotten memories. Gellert? What did this young man want from Gellert? Could it be related to the Confidentiality Act? Dumbledore's heart sank slightly as he thought of what he and Gellert had struggled for in their youth. The smile on his face disappeared, and his body leaned forward slightly, appearing quite oppressive. His sharp eyes stared straight at Sebastian through the half-moon glasses on his nose. I need to know why, Sebastian. In just a moment, Sebastian felt like he was being stared at by a ferocious beast. It felt like he came in front of a lion that was sleeping with its eyes closed. His actions just aroused the lion's vigilance, and it stood up, stared at the prey in front of it, and made movements ready to hunt. The reason is simple, Sebastian said calmly, looking Dumbledore straight in the eye, I want to learn his spell, Fire Shield. I've heard about the fire in Paris decades ago, and I'm very interested in this powerful spell. I want to meet Grindelwald and learn the spell from him. Hearing Sebastian's answer, Dumbledore's eyes instantly became heavy and complicated. Sebastian, Dumbledore whispered, Fire Shield is an extremely dangerous magic. The power it brings is not something that can be easily controlled. He looked directly at Sebastian, his eyes filled with pleading and concern. Why do you want to learn this dark magic? Sebastian, you are already good enough. I can even say that I am not as good as you when I was your age. Excessive pursuit of powerful spells and excessive obsession with power will only slowly lead to your losing your mind. No, Headmaster, you misunderstand. I am not addicted to power. Sebastian spoke quickly, stopping Dumbledore's tirade. I think there is nothing wrong with power itself. The one who is wrong is always the one who uses it. Didn't the Auror start using the killing curse to attack the Death Eaters in the later stages of the Second Wizarding War? We can't say that those Aurors are bad people. Sebastian showed a meaningful smile on his face. I have always believed in a concept, that is, not having a magic wand in your hand and having a magic wand but not using it are two completely different concepts. So, for a spell as powerful as this, I would rather learn it and not use it, but add it to my collection. Besides, compared to the Fire Shield spell itself, I am more interested in the knowledge behind the spell. Sebastian's expression was sincere, and he did not avoid Dumbledore's sharp gaze at all. I feel that as long as I understand that knowledge, my strength will definitely be able to reach a higher level. The Fire Shield is a group attack magic that can distinguish between friend and foe. Sebastian is determined to succeed with this spell. He was not lying. His interest in the knowledge behind the spell was far greater than the spell itself. I came to discuss with Dumbledore today, firstly to show my respect to him, and secondly because Grindelwald might be easier to talk to if Dumbledore was with him. After all, he and Grindelwald have no relationship, and the other party can completely reject all his requests. Seeing Dumbledore's silence, Sebastian continued. Headmaster, Voldemort could return at any time. We must seize every opportunity to improve our strength. If he is not completely eliminated, the wizarding world will live completely under his shadow. If this continues, what future will there be? After listening to Sebastian's powerful words, Dumbledore fell into deep thought. After careful observation, Dumbledore found that during the conversation with him, Sebastian's eyes were always extremely clear, without any madness that seemed to be indulging in power. His will was very firm, and he didn't look like he could be persuaded at all. In this way, it would be better to let this little guy secretly meet Gellert without his knowledge. It would be better to go with him in person so that he can have all the situations under his control. Thinking of the familiar figure in his mind, Dumbledore sighed slightly in his heart. Gellert. It's been a long time since we last met. Seeing Dumbledore's brows relax slightly and show a hint of intention, Sebastian raised the stakes. Well, to show my sincerity. Sebastian said proudly, 30,000 gold galleons. This is my investment in the school. It's not about the money. Dumbledore felt helpless. This little guy, why is he always like this? I'm not the kind of person who is blinded by money. But 30,000 gold galleons is indeed very tempting. With this money, I don't have to worry about funding for the work-study program for a long time. He hesitated and said with a frown. Even if you go to Nurmengard, I can't guarantee that Gellert will teach you. There are also problems at the Austrian Ministry of Magic. Trouble? Isn't this the Muggle equivalent of "this matter is not easy to handle"? I'm all too familiar with this excuse. Why don't you just say Grindelwald is your beloved friend, brother, and relative? He held up 5 fingers to Dumbledore. 50,000 gold galleons. Sebastian is full of confidence. This is 50,000 gold galleons. I don't believe that you, old Dumbledore, won't be tempted. With this money, I won't have to worry about funding for work-study for at least 5 years. Even for the students, you have to agree to the proposal just now. Sure enough, Dumbledore hesitated for just a moment and then nodded heavily. Okay, I will help you persuade Gellert. As for the Austrian Ministry of Magic, you don't have to worry about it. Seeing that his goal was finally achieved, Sebastian's mouth curled up into a satisfied smile. However, he didn't know if it was an illusion, but he always felt that Dumbledore showed a hint of resentment between his brows after hearing 50,000 gold galleons. Sebastian was a little confused. Could it be that Grindelwald's appearance fee is higher, which makes Dumbledore a little jealous? Before Sebastian could think about it, he saw Dumbledore stand up and let Fawkes fly onto his shoulder. Dumbledore raised his arms and smiled at Sebastian. Come on, let's go. Nurmengard. Chapter 72. Nurmengard stands on the top of a towering mountain, like a gloomy giant beast guarding its territory. The towering tower reaches into the sky, and the surrounding walls are made of thick black stone. Every stone seems to exude a heavy sense of oppression. There are no guards here, only a huge and heavy iron door covered with complex runes and protective spells, exuding terrifying power. The castle is surrounded by thick clouds and fog, which seem to be flowing slowly as if they have life, obscuring the entire view of Nurmengard and giving people a mysterious and terrifying feeling. Looking at the familiar words above the door, Dumbledore was filled with emotion. For the greater good originally, he thought he could face it all calmly and then tell Sebastian about the past here. However, he couldn't care less about Sebastian now. Endless memories flooded his mind and complex emotions arose in his heart. It's been 46 years. It has been such a long time since I last met Gellert. I don't know. Is he okay now? Dumbledore took a deep breath and moved forward, ready to face those long-forgotten memories. He lifted his legs and walked slowly towards the gate of Nurmengard, step by step. His footsteps echoed on the empty mountain top, as if every step was a conversation with the past. He reached out his hand and gently touched the iron door covered with powerful spells. The cold touch reminded him of the days when he fought with Gellert. At that time, they had longed for a new world, a world without secrets and without boundaries. However, everything was shattered by their obsession with each other. The iron gate slowly opened, and Dumbledore stepped into the interior of Nurmengard. The interior of the castle was equally suffocating, with long corridors stretching into the unknown darkness, flanked by cold stone walls, with 1 or 2 dim torches occasionally flickering on the wall. The firelight illuminated the deep scratches on the wall, as if telling of the loneliness and struggle that once existed here. Dumbledore walked very slowly, and he was not sure whether he should walk faster or slower. He only knew that the stairs to the upper floor were very long, and his legs were very heavy, so every step was extremely difficult. Finally, he came to a small room with the door half open and a faint light coming from inside. Dumbledore pushed open the door and saw the strange yet familiar figure, Gellert Grindelwald. Grindelwald sat quietly on a simple hard bed, covered with a thin and tattered blanket. His eyes were calm and deep, as if he had already seen through everything in the world. Looking at the old man who walked in, he smiled slightly, with a hint of complicated emotions in his eyes. Albus, did you get my letter? Very nice. You came to see me. I've been waiting for you. I waited a long time. It took 46 years. The corners of Dumbledore's eyes were slightly moist. In his eyes, this skinny figure slowly overlapped with a handsome and charming figure. They were once friends, lovers, comrades in arms, and rivals. Now, time has brought them together again. Dumbledore took a step closer and spoke in a low, slow voice. Gellert, long time no see. Grindelwald smiled, patted the hard bedboard beside him, and extended an invitation to Dumbledore. Come and sit down. My place is a little shabby, without even a bed sheet. I hope you don't mind. However, although it is a bit shabby, the scenery outside the window is nice. I often stand at the window and look out. Look at the sunrise, look at the sunset, look at the clouds in the sky, look at the falling rain. The night before last, the sky was full of stars. I stood there for a long time and looked at them. When I got tired, I just leaned against the wall and fell asleep. I prefer to sit on the bed and watch my neighbor. Albus, look. Grindelwald raised his hand and pointed to the corner of the roof, where there was a spider, lying quietly on its web. What I like most is watching it weave its web, one circle after another, busy all the time. It's just that there are not enough mosquitoes here, so it often goes hungry or full. It's strange that we were so focused on moving forward that we didn't pay attention to the scenery around us. Now that it's quiet, I find these common things so interesting. I have written many letters to share these wonderful things with you. Unfortunately, I have never received a reply from you. He turned his head, looked carefully at Dumbledore who was sitting next to him, and smiled with emotion. Time flies, Albus. In the blink of an eye, you are so old and your beard is so long. We are not as lively as we were when we were young. I remember you used to talk a lot. Listening to Grindelwald's chatter, Dumbledore's heart slowly calmed down. He smiled at Grindelwald, a smile full of relief for the past. Yes. Sebastian stood in the shadow outside the door, quiet and silent. The time now belongs to the two reunited old men. He listened silently to the two people reminiscing about the past, and had no intention of disturbing them. Sebastian sensed it carefully and found that Grindelwald's magic was still very dazzling. However, his body was very thin, like a skeleton, and he was very weak. Sebastian's thoughts were a little distracted, he was wondering what kind of person Grindelwald was. There is no doubt that young Grindelwald was a charming and brilliant wizard. He has pale blonde hair and looks both noble and cold. His eyes were cold blue, deep and sharp, as if they could see into the deepest part of people's hearts. Under his gaze, anyone would feel that nothing could escape his gaze. Thinking of this, Sebastian looked carefully outside the door. He found that Grindelwald's face was as thin as a skeleton, with his eyes sunken in his eye sockets, which was completely different from his handsome image in his youth. However, Sebastian does not judge people by their appearance, and does not look down on Grindelwald just because he has grey hair. This is a very idealistic and talented person. He has a genius-level intelligence and a ruthless personality. He can carefully plan to achieve his goals and will do whatever it takes to achieve them. You know, back then he single-handedly made the American Ministry of Magic run around in circles. In addition, he also has amazing personal charm. To this day, there are still many people in the Wuzu party he founded who miss him and are waiting for him to issue new orders. Suddenly, Sebastian's thoughts were interrupted by words from inside the door. Albus, the young man has been standing outside the door for so long, why don't you call him in and introduce him to me? Hello, Mr. Grindelwald. Sebastian walked in and bowed slightly to Grindelwald. My name is Sebastian Swan, Professor of Muggle Studies at Hogwarts. It's a pleasure to meet you. Grindelwald sat on the bed, looking carefully at Sebastian who walked in with his piercing eyes. After a long pause, he smiled and said, a very impressive young man, with very dazzling magic power, just like me when I was young. I already know the reason why you came, the purpose hidden deep in your heart. As he spoke, the corners of his mouth widened, as if he had completed a prank. Unfortunately, your goal cannot be achieved. Because I don't talk to childish people. Ask for everything, thank you very much. Chapter 73. Sebastian nearly spit out a mouthful of saltine soda. Who is childish? Could you please have some AC knowledge in your mind? Is this really Grindelwald? That heartthrob? What about your personal charm? If it weren't for the smiling Dumbledore sitting next to him, Sebastian would never have been able to connect this little old man with the legendary first-generation Dark Lord. To be honest, before coming here, he had imagined countless meeting scenarios in his mind. But he never expected that he would receive a childish comment just after saying hello. However, despite all his complaints, Sebastian was still surprised by Grindelwald's strength. There is not the slightest trace of soul-stealing. Is this prophecy? What did this old man see? Cut. It's amazing to be able to predict the future. He smiled and asked calmly, what did you see? Grindelwald glanced at Dumbledore, then looked at Sebastian with a half-smile. Some of your arrangements in the Muggle world. You want to break the statute of secrecy, don't you? Sebastian couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. As expected, a great reputation is a real one. Just by seeing a little bit of the layout, he determined that his goal was to break the statute of secrecy. Is this the rumored power that Grindelwald has to see into people's hearts? Originally, he came here just to learn spells, but before he even started learning the spells, Grindelwald saw through his intention to break the statute of secrecy. This was a bit troublesome, and Dumbledore's face darkened. On the other hand, the old man Grindelwald was smiling all the time, as if he was enjoying the fun. Sebastian calmed himself down and made up his mind to confront his opponent. Now that Dumbledore already knows about it and there's no way to fool him, I might as well just speak frankly today to avoid having to explain it all over again later. Moreover, breaking the Secrecy Act was also the wish of these two old men when they were young. If they could be persuaded and won over to their camp, the road ahead would be easier. In the blink of an eye, Sebastian had prepared a plan in his mind. He took out a chair and sat down opposite the two of them. I thought you would support me in breaking the statute of secrecy. I just agree with your idea of breaking it. Otherwise, I would not bother to say a word to you, even if you came with Albus. For a moment, a look of disdain appeared on Grindelwald's face. But, making a movie in the Muggle world. He curled his lips in contempt. You can think of such a childish method. Naive? Your method is not naive, but it failed. In my opinion, your proposal of letting wizards rule Muggles directly is really naive. Oh, really? Grindelwald still had a faint smile on his face, as if he didn't take Sebastian's words to heart at all. Young man, please tell me. I want to know what makes your method so clever. As long as you can convince me, I can teach you my unique spell. Seeing Grindelwald's look of contempt, Sebastian lost his reserve and completely let go. You know, what he is best at is convincing people with reason. When dealing with an elderly person who has lived alone for half a century, the only way to deal with him is to shut him up with irrefutable facts so that he can calm down and listen to others. However, before Sebastian could say anything, Dumbledore could no longer sit still and hurriedly spoke up to interrupt the argument. Sebastian, tell me, are you serious about breaking the statute of secrecy? You should know that the wizarding world, which has experienced 2 wars, is very fragile and can no longer withstand any major setbacks. Seeing that Dumbledore looked heavy, Sebastian motioned him to be patient, then took out a square object. There is a classic Muggle saying, know yourself and your enemy, and you will win every battle. I want to ask you too, have you really understood Muggles? Sebastian pointed to the items on the ground. What you see before you is a groundbreaking product invented by Muggles, the computer. Unfortunately, there is no electricity or internet here, so I can't show you how powerful it is. Seeing this strange object, Grindelwald instantly became interested. He had come to Nurmengard since 1945. To be honest, he really didn't understand what this strange item was used for. With computers and the internet, a Muggle in the UK can contact a Muggle in the US in a matter of seconds. This kind of communication can be text, pictures, or even looking at the other person's face to communicate directly. Principal Dumbledore, you may not know that Harry's aunt has this item at home. What does this mean? It means that this kind of item has begun to enter the homes of thousands of ordinary Muggles. With him, people around the world can communicate freely without being restricted by distance and time. After hearing Sebastian's introduction, Grindelwald's expression turned grim. His prophetic powers were triggered, and he discovered that the young man was not bragging at all. He saw many uses for computers. It was not just a communication tool, but Muggles could also use it to learn efficiently. Suddenly, his pupils shrank and he saw the young man took out a black brick. He recognized it. This black brick had appeared in his prophecy. It was also a tool that enabled Muggles to communicate efficiently. Grindelwald felt a little heavy-hearted. He had no idea what the Muggle world had become like now. Thinking about the magical world that still used owls to transmit messages, he felt worried. Where is the way out for the wizarding world? Looking at Sebastian who was talking so eloquently, he realized one thing. Each generation has its own mission, and his era has passed. Since this young man has the idea of breaking the statute of secrecy, it would be a good idea to listen to what his plans are. Slowly, he calmed down and listened carefully to Sebastian's introduction. Looking at the 2 old men who were listening to him attentively, Sebastian seemed to be back in the Muggle Studies class and became more and more confident. He took out many photos again, enlarged them and told the 2 old people about them one by one. Are these items magical? Do they look more magical than magic? Don't underestimate Muggles. Although they don't have magical powers, they have unique wisdom. Sebastian smiled to himself. Honestly, if I take a walk around the streets of London, I will feel that the Muggle world has surpassed the wizarding world by a huge margin. He straightened his face and looked at Dumbledore sincerely. Principal, I've been worried. According to the speed of technological development in the Muggle world, in less than 20 years, the sky will be filled with Muggle satellites. There will be billions and billions of cameras on their streets. Then the wizarding world will no longer be able to hide. Sebastian changed the subject, his voice becoming more heated. So, instead of passively waiting for the situation to deteriorate, it is better to take the initiative. Put the initiative in our own hands. Chapter 74. Dumbledore's face was full of worry. He had always lived in the wizarding world and had not been to the Muggle world for a long time. He had never imagined that in just a few years, Muggles would invent so many novel items. The Muggle world that Sebastian talked about was completely different from the Muggle world he knew. He suddenly felt fortunate that Sebastian became the professor of Muggle studies at Hogwarts. In this way, the little wizards will no longer be narrow-minded. He thought for a moment, then asked Sebastian, I understand your thoughts. Just now Gellert said that you were filming a movie in the Muggle world. Could you explain to me what's going on? Sebastian smiled slightly and answered confidently, before I explain the situation, I need to explain a concept to both of you, Muggles. Muggle? What else is there to say? Grindelwald became interested. He wanted to hear what the young man had to say about the concept of Muggles. When wizards look at Muggles, they tend to think of them as a single entity. However, the Muggle public and the Muggle government are two completely different entities. We should treat them separately. For the Muggle government, they don't like things that are out of their control, so they tend to want to keep everything in their hands. But for ordinary Muggles, what they care about is their own lives, and they don't particularly care about what the government thinks. Seeing the two old men looking thoughtful, Sebastian smiled and continued. The war between wizards and Muggles happened a long time ago. Nowadays, when Muggles talk about wizards, they think they are just legends. It can be said that Muggles now have no ill will towards wizards. They only have a strong curiosity. After figuring this out, our main goal is to use their curiosity to make these Muggles like wizards. So, we need to take advantage of the situation, the world trend set off by the Muggle government. Do you know what the problem is among Muggles right now? At this point, Sebastian paused for a moment to keep the topic in suspense. Without giving the two much time to think, he revealed the answer. Oversupply of talent. Since the Second World War in the Muggle world, their talent has increased to the point where there is a surplus of talent. But they need a large number of working people at the bottom to keep their society running. So, the Muggle government came up with a solution: entertainment. Seeing the two people's confused looks, Sebastian explained briefly. In fact, the reason is very simple. The Muggle government wants people to spend a lot of time on entertainment. If this continues, people's intelligence will be lowered, which will not only make management easier, but also eliminate the need to worry about a surplus of talent. It will be a win-win for everyone and we can kill two birds with one stone. Sebastian is well aware that with the emergence of such policies, the world will enter the entertainment era. The next 20 or even 30 years will be the golden period for the full development of the entertainment industry. Therefore, he wanted to take advantage of this favorable situation and devote all his efforts to developing the wizard film industry and wizard publishing house in the Muggle world. Use various film and television works to manage, shape and promote the image of wizards, so that the image of wizards can be deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. They want to win the recognition of wizards from the Muggle public and make them like this group of people. After all, in Muggle society, life pressure and mental stress go hand in hand. Faced with heavy work, complicated interpersonal relationships and all kinds of unsatisfactory things in life, Muggles are eager to escape and find a way to reduce the mental burden. Thus, the fantasy world gradually became a safe haven for their souls. More and more Muggle writers are picking up their pens to create the fantasy world in their minds. Among these fantasy worlds, the magical world is undoubtedly one of the most attractive. In this world, Muggles can temporarily break free from the constraints of reality and experience unlimited possibilities and freedom. In order to win the support of these two elderly people, Sebastian tried his best and patiently told them about his plans for the film and television company and the significance of making movies. Oh! Grindelwald sneered, interrupting Sebastian's chatter. You still don't believe me when I say you are naive. If the wizarding world only exists in movies and TV shows, the Muggle government certainly doesn't care. Guess what these Muggle governments will do once the wizarding world is fully exposed? You're not so naive as to think that they will get along with wizards. Faced with Grindelwald's questioning, Sebastian was not at all flustered. He smiled slightly and gave his own answer. Smart Muggles have long provided a solution to this problem, which is to divide, win over, and suppress. You know, the Muggle government is not a monolithic entity. They are made up of multiple political parties, and each party has its own demands. Even each political party is made up of individual Muggles, individuals. Sebastian smiled meaningfully. As long as you are human, you will have desires. As long as you have selfish desires, it will be easy to deal with. We can support Muggle political parties that are friendly to wizards and let them come to power. As for unfriendly Muggle parties. Hearing this, Dumbledore interrupted Sebastian's speech. He admitted that Sebastian's ideas were very mature and he was somewhat moved by them. But the way this young man plays politics is dangerous. Moreover, from what Sebastian said, he intended to eliminate the hostile parties among the Muggles. Therefore, he felt it necessary to warn Sebastian to prevent the young man from going astray. Sebastian, your thoughts are very dangerous. You must have offer life. If you ignore life, your soul will easily be corrupted. Albus, Grindelwald said to Sebastian after hearing Dumbledore's advice, I think this kid's idea is interesting. Sebastian, right? I'm a little interested in you now. Seeing that the two old men were about to argue again, Sebastian quickly took out a world map and hung it on the wall with magic. Don't rush to argue. Do you know the theory of nuclear deterrence? He smiled mysteriously and pointed to a country on the map. We all know that the statute of secrecy in the American wizarding world is the strictest. This is because their Muggle government has an extremely strong bandit character. They always regard themselves as the boss of the Muggle world and dictate to other countries. But because of the nuclear deterrent, they will also be at the negotiating table with other countries. So, if the day comes when we break the statute of secrecy, we'd better let those unfriendly Muggle parties know, let those robbers know. We in the magic world have our own unique nuclear weapons, human-shaped nuclear weapons. In this way, everything can be returned to the negotiation table. Sebastian stood up, staring intently at the two old men in front of him. Principal, your worry is not without reason. I am still young, so I need an experienced wizard like you to guide me and look after me. Mr. Grindelwald, you are a giant in the wizarding world, and your ideal is to break the statute of secrecy. I sincerely invite you to join us in breaking the statute of secrecy. As he spoke, Sebastian extended his right hand to the two old men. Become my companion. Chapter 75. Pity. Although Sebastian's tone was gentle yet firm, it seemed as if every word could reach the depths of his heart. And his expression was full of irresistible attraction, which seemed to be able to easily shake anyone's beliefs. But the two old men are experienced and not as easily carried away as the hot-blooded young people. They looked thoughtful, and no one knew what they were thinking about. Sebastian stretched out his right hand, but no one paid any attention to him. For a moment, the room was extremely quiet. Fortunately, he was very thick-skinned and didn't feel embarrassed at all. He just smiled and took his right hand back. Sebastian thought clearly that these two were smart people, and the biggest characteristic of smart people is that they are difficult to fool. In other words, they only believe what they see, think, and imagine. I didn't expect to tie the two of them to my chariot with just a few words today, and recruiting them was just a shot in the arm. At most, it just plants a seed in their hearts. Seeing that the two old men were still immersed in their thoughts, Sebastian did not disturb them. He just took out his own seamless stretch bag and took things out one by one. Brand new bedding, magic lamps, magic TV, multifunctional massage chair and so on. In a short while, the whole room was transformed. Sebastian's calculations were clacking, and he was thinking clearly. It doesn't matter if the two old guys don't join me, but I must learn magic today. So, decorate this room well to make Grindelwald live more comfortably. Don't hit a smiling person. I hope that old man Grindelwald won't make things difficult for me when teaching me spells. Looking at Sebastian's busy figure, Grindelwald grinned. Boy, stop busying yourself. These material possessions are not worth mentioning in my eyes. If you want to please me by this means, you are making a wrong idea. Besides, I will not go out with you. He glanced at Dumbledore. After all, I am just a prisoner in Nurmengard. Sebastian resisted the urge to curl his lips. What prisoner? It's just that Grindelwald was heartbroken and locked himself up. The protective spell outside Nermengard looks powerful, but in fact it can't stop a powerful wizard like Grindelwald. He had actually been waiting for an invitation. An invitation from Dumbledore. Otherwise why did he look at Dumbledore just now? Just as Sebastian's inner drama was becoming more and more lively, he heard Grindelwald change the subject. You are quite pleasing to my eye, I can teach you the spell. Cast a fiendish fire charm and see what happens, Sebastian. Hearing this, Sebastian took out his wand and made a piece of parchment float in the air. In the blink of an eye, an orange flame ignited from a corner of the parchment, and then slowly devoured the entire parchment at a slow speed. Grindelwald was filled with admiration when he saw that the violent fiend fire had become more docile than an ordinary flame under Sebastian's hands. I must say that your control over magic and spells is exquisite. However, I will only teach you the essentials of fire shield protection. As for whether you can learn it, when you can learn it, and how well you learn it, it all depends on your own understanding. Grindelwald adjusted his posture to make himself more comfortable. The principle is actually very simple. All you need to do is let your will become Li Huo's will. Remember, it's not about controlling it with your will, but about integrating your will into it and making the fierce fire become spiritual. In this way, this spell can autonomously identify friend and foe, so that those who recognize your will no longer be harmed by this magic. At this point, Grindelwald stopped talking and looked at Sebastian with a smile on his face. Is that all? How to integrate will into Luo? Such a crucial trick is not mentioned. Sebastian was a little speechless. He was listening with fascination, but it ended so abruptly. This old man is really good at writing. This means you are not afraid of receiving a razor blade at all. But the power of will? This feeling is a bit like the power of love. Sebastian remembered that in the original book, Dumbledore always talked about the power of love. His mind wandered a little, and he thought about the protective spell Lily had left on Harry. Isn't that ancient magic infused with Lily's love for Harry? Thinking of this, Sebastian felt a surge of pride in his heart. Haha, you old man are still hiding something. However, even if you don't tell me, I can figure out the trick. The tall towers of Nermengard cast long shadows in the setting sun, and this shadow was like a giant hand, covering the surrounding wilderness, making it seem even more eerie. After closing the heavy door, Sebastian couldn't help but raise his head and look in the direction of Grindelwald's room. The stubborn old man didn't leave the cage after all. He was completely unmoved by Sebastian's persuasion and just stayed there stubbornly. Sebastian sighed inwardly and turned to look at Dumbledore's leaving back. Grindelwald may be waiting for an invitation from Dumbledore. So what was Dumbledore waiting for? The grudges between these two old guys are really confusing. Sebastian. Dumbledore's voice came, his tone was very flat, and no one could tell whether he was happy or angry. Do you want Gellert to come out and become a human nuclear weapon in the wizarding world? Hearing Dumbledore's question, Sebastian quickly stepped forward and walked side by side with Dumbledore. I just want an extra layer of insurance. After all, Mr. Grindelwald is a big name. Sebastian smiled at Dumbledore. I hate war because I am a peace-loving businessman, and Swan alchemy focuses on daily necessities. War will deal a heavy blow to Swan alchemy. But as a wizard, a powerful wizard, I am never afraid of war. I really like what the Muggles said. Sebastian smiled meaningfully, and his voice was no longer dull, but became decisive and powerful. Peace survives when it is sought through struggle, but it dies when it is sought through compromise. If that day ever comes, I will become a nuclear weapon in the eyes of the Muggle government for the sake of the wizarding world. After saying this, he waved to Dumbledore in the setting Sunday headmaster, I will not go back to Hogwarts with you. Harry is still at Severus's, waiting for me to pick him up and take him home. We'll see you later. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you're notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.